Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 6th episode of the story, where trained as a sage, the Kyuubi by his side, and more powerful than ever, Naruto seeks to be known to the world, either by respect or by fear. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Morning came quickly and abruptly for Naruto. He woke up to the sound of Genma yelling at him for sleeping past the designated waking up time. At the moment, the group was in a large diner for breakfast. "So how is the treaty going, Hokage-sama?" Asuma asked. "Very well, in fact. Today should be the day to seal the treaty," the Hokage responded. Guy nodded. "Wosh. This meeting of the Kages is so youthful." Everyone in the restaurant sweat dropped at Guy's antics. But something unexpected happened next. A frog jumped onto the table. It was so random. The frog was just sitting there. Everyone stared at the frog and it just stared back. But Naruto thought the frog looked familiar. "Gamatsu, what brings you here?" Naruto spoke. Everyone looked at Naruto, then the Hokage smiled. "I see," he said. "One of Jiraiya summons." Everyone else at the table nodded in recognition. Naruto Jiraiya was in Konoha this morning. "It seems that there was an attempt to steal the Byakugan," Gamatsu said. At this, everyone at the table went wide-eyed. "Wait, an attempt on the Byakugan?" the Hokage asked. "Yep. Oh, they don't know who did it yet. Jiraiya said that there was some sort of roadblock on the guy, so they couldn't find out," Gamatsu said. "A roadblock on the guy?" It was Kakashi who spoke, confused. "I see a memory seal. Whoever sent him had his memory sealed. They prepared for the worst-case scenario of him dying and his memories being searched through," Naruto spoke. Everyone at the table nodded. "But who would have tried to steal the Byakugan?" But before anyone else could say anything, Gamatsu spoke. "Oh, and Jiraiya said I should give you this," and Gamatsu reached for the tiny scroll on his back. He handed it to Naruto. Naruto opened it and read it through, then closed it. He held it in his palm, and as his eyes flashed red for just a moment, the scroll spontaneously burst into flames. Naruto stood up, then spoke to his teammates. "It would seem my time as your guardian has come to an end, Hokage-sama." The Hokage was curious. "What do you mean, Naruto?" Naruto answered. "Teammate has run into minor obstacles on their mission. I must go and assist." "Wait, aren't they all the way in Fire Country?" Genma asked. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya mapped out a time frame. "It is nearing 8:30 and he has set up a reverse summoning for 8:35. Gamatsu will take me to Mount Myaboku and Jiraiya will summon me to Konoha from there." Asuma's eyes were wide. "You can do that?" "Time-space ninjutsu is a marvelous thing," Naruto responded, then got up. Before he could leave though, he was stopped by the Hokage's voice. "Be careful, Naruto," the Hokage spoke. Naruto looked at the Hokage as if he was slightly surprised by the words. "You show concern where it is not needed, Hokage-sama," and with that, Naruto walked out, leaving a confused group to ponder on Naruto's cold response. "XXX, so who do you think they'll send?" asked a frantic Kiba. "I don't believe who would exactly matter. As long as he is of sufficient rank as to be able to guide us through this mission," Shino responded. The third and most quiet member of the squad nodded to Shino's words. Currently, Team 8 were in an inn run by friends of the people who hired them. After what happened, they needed a place to stay that was off the radar. Kiba spoke again, this time less confidence in his voice. "Do you think she's okay?" "Kurenai-sensei is going to be fine. There is a reason she is a jounin," Shino responded. Kiba didn't look reassured by Shino's words. He turned to Hinata. "What do you think, Hinata?" Kiba asked. Hinata looked surprised that Kiba would ask him. Well, you see, Kurenai-sensei is, I think she'll be alright," she spoke, all the while stuttering in her usual way. Kiba nodded. "This would be a long mission. XXXXXX, I welcome you, Hokage Dano. It would seem that today you are the last to arrive," the Raikage said. The Hokage looked around the Raikage at the table. It was larger than the table that was present last night. Two of each Kage's guard stood behind each Kage. The Hokage took in the sight, then spoke, "Well, now that I'm here, I suppose we can get this underway." The Hokage nodded, then spoke, "As you can see, you may have only 2 guards with you at this time." The Hokage understood. "Kakashi, Gai, Hai, Hokage-sama," each said in unison. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but where is that young blonde one that accompanied you earlier?" the Hokage asked. "It would seem something came up that required him to oversee her," the Hokage spoke. "I see. Well then, you may take your seat, Hokage-sama. Today is the day we finalize the treaty XX. That was unpleasant," Naruto spoke as he stood up. He was in Konoha. Jiraiya had just performed the reverse summoning. Currently, they were just outside the hot springs. "Sorry about that, but there is no time to waste," Jiraiya spoke. Naruto looked at his teacher, then spoke, "Why did you seal me, Jiraiya?" The question made Jiraiya's eyes widened. "What? The question is simple, tell me why you sealed me," Naruto said, slight anger building up in his voice. "But how did you? Damn, I knew I felt something different about you," Jiraiya cursed. Naruto smirked. "Did you think you could truly seal away the real me?" "Honestly, that was what I was hoping for. I knew it wasn't truly possible without your cooperation, but I had to try. The person you were, that wasn't you, Naruto," Jiraiya said. "Wrong. When you sealed me, that was when I became someone else entirely. I was very much me," Naruto countered. "No, you weren't. That deal you made with the Kyuubi messed you up. You were unstable," Jiraiya said. "Unstable?" Naruto pondered on Jiraiya's words. If when he was himself he was unstable, then it meant that he couldn't be his true self at the moment. He could tell that he was very much stable. "Jiraiya, answer me honestly, am I how I was before?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya was caught off guard. "What do you mean, am I unstable as you said?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya's eyes took on recognition. "You mean you broke the seal?" Now it was Naruto's turn to look confused. "Of course. Why else would I be asking you this?" "Well, your eyes aren't even red," Jiraiya spoke, "meaning the Kyuubi's influence is severely limited. I thought that was because the seal was still in effect." "Wait, my eyes were red?" Naruto asked. "Yes, an unholy red that spelled only destruction," Jiraiya answered. "I see. It would seem I was wrong then, Jiraiya." "Mission report," Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded as he noticed Naruto go into business mode. Team 8, which consists of Aburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata, Kiba Inuzuka and Jounin Sensei Kurenai Yuhi, has run into trouble on their mission to rid a group of pirates which docks at the shore of their town. Naruto nodded. "What sort of complications have they run into?" Jiraiya spoke again. "Their Jounin Sensei has been taken hostage by the pirates." Naruto's eyes widened. "Wait, she was taken captive?" "I was surprised too, but it would seem that the pirates have at least 3 Jounin-level ninja in their crew. It would seem just one was strong enough to take down Kurenai," Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded. "What is my mission?" "To aid Team 8 in completion of the mission, and to rescue the captive Kurenai Yuhi," Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded. "Their location, a small town in southeastern Wave Country," Jiraiya said as he pulled out a scroll. As he ran blood over it. As he did it, a small map popped out. "I've marked down the location. Any questions?" Jiraiya asked. "Just one," Naruto responded, a savage grin bestowed on his face. "Do you want them dead or alive?" XXXXXX. Kane stood in the training field. He observed the carnage he had brought forth. He was currently working on learning how to use the Eye of Intent. He couldn't utilize shadow clones to nearly as well as Naruto could, but he could still use them. It came like a sixth sense. That's how Kane described it. Once you got it, it felt natural. Kane had already been able to conjure up killing intent, now he was just working on making it infinitely stronger. He would also try a Kenjutsu spar with a clone later. He noticed slightly better reaction time when he faced off against Ritsuko, and it just made him wonder the extent of the Eye's abilities. Taking the Eye of Intent was a good choice indeed. XX. The next morning, it was eerily quiet in the inn. Even though they were under the protection of the inn and owner, they still did nightly watch shifts. Shino had taken first watch, then Hinata, then lastly Kiba. But that was when he heard something. He rushed to the door and opened it quickly to see Kiba slouched in the hallway, snoring. Shino could just shake his head at Kiba's antics. He moved to go and wake him up until he heard another sound from down the hall. "They're not in this room either," a masculine voice spoke. Shino's eyes widened as he rushed and hit Kiba on the head to wake him up. Just as Kiba was going to protest, Shino covered his mouth with his hand, then whispered. "They're here, Kiba," Shino whispered. Kiba's eyes widened as he got up quickly but silently. They both walked in and shut the door frantically but quietly. They needed to wake Hinata. "Hinata, wake up," Shino spoke. Hinata stirred in her sleep. "Naruto-kun," Kiba sweat dropped. "Really?" he said sarcastically, but then his face went serious again. He walked over to her and shook her awake. Hinata's eyes jolted open in surprise. "Kiba-kun." "What dash, never mind that, Hinata. The guys who took Kurenai-sensei are here. We need to get out of here." Kiba spoke. Hinata's eyes widened, then she nodded in understanding. Then it was Shino's turn to speak. "Pack your stuff quickly, we'll go out through the window." Kiba and Hinata nodded as they rushed to begin packing their stuff. Shino did the same. In Kiba's mind though, he was wondering where the backup Konoha sent for them was. Maybe the message never got through and they weren't sending any backup. The worst-case scenario popped into Kiba's head, and he tried to rid himself of the image but he found he could not. Kiba quickened his pace as he heard the shouts coming closer. "Not here either," the voice spoke. They were even closer now. "No luck, they must be farther down." "Damn," Kiba spoke, as he kept packing his belongings. "Calm down, Kiba. We'll be okay," Shino spoke. "Damn it. Not here either," a voice yelled. It was even closer. "Not in this room. Last room left." The door swung open to reveal an empty room. It was obvious that someone had slept in here as the bed was ruffled, but there was no sign of anyone. What the person did not notice was that the window was open. "Damn. Where the hell are those kids?" a voice yelled. "Calm down, Kichiro." "Hi, Rikutaicho," the man responded. "Those kids exited through the window. They couldn't have gotten too far. I will continue pursuit on my own." Riku spoke. "Hi. What should we do?" Kichiro asked. "Head back to the ship. Give the captain a status report. I will return once the kids are dead." Riku spoke. "I will get right on it," and as he said that, Kichiro walked out. Riku watched Kichiro leave, then he looked at the open window. "Ninja haven't dealt with them in a while, should be interesting." Riku blurred out of sight and reappeared on the window sill. Then he blurred again, in pursuit of Team 8. XX Naruto ran through the paths of Wave Country. He was just about to the fishing village that Team 8 was located in. He had a bad feeling in his gut, though a feeling that he just couldn't get rid of. He sighed, then continued running. He had run all the way from Fire Country to Wave Country, and he was beginning to tire. But the feeling in his gut didn't let him stop. He would hope that he had enough energy to defeat any opposition he came into contact with. XXXX Team 8 walked through the market district of the small fishing town. They had decided on stealth instead of speed. Mission orders were clear from Kurenai: for any mission await backup. If situation proves life-threatening or success rate decreases to minuscule level, then abort the mission and return to Fire Country and the Hidden Leaf Village. That was what they were doing now. They had waited for backup which did not arrive, and now they had bandits and possibly ninja on their tails. Shino suddenly stopped walking. "Shino. What's wrong?" It was Kiba who asked. "We're being followed," Shino spoke. Hinata put her hands to her mouth and blocked her gasp. She then spoke. "Oh no, damn it, Shino, we've gotta sacrifice stealth for speed now. If we don't get out of Wave Country, we're screwed." Shino nodded. "You're right, Kiba, let's go." Kiba nodded. Akamaru barked on his head. "Where do you think you're going, ninja?" Teammates' eyes widened as they heard the voice. Kiba gasped, and spoke in hurried breaths. What but how did her catch up? You think me for an amateur pathetic? You ninja are not even worth killing, but unfortunately, it must be done, and with that, Riku reached for a katana that was strapped to his waist on the left side. Hinata took in the man standing before her. He wore black shinobi pants and metal-toed sandals. He wore a tight white t-shirt and an overcoat. The overcoat had a high collar which framed his neck. The man had a sunbon in his mouth. His hair was low and spiky. His eyes were a soft brown. He had a sword strapped to his waist on his left side and one on his right side. People in the streets began to disperse, running away from the scene. Stores closed on either side of the road. Soon, only the Team 8 and Riku stood. Riku then spoke, a katana in his right hand. You ninja are all the same, it's time for you to perish, and with that, Riku blurred out of sight. He appeared in front of Shino and cut him in half. Hinata let out a small gasp, then formed a single hand seal, Byakugan. She yelled as her eyes flared to life. A Hyuga Riku spoke, but then his eyes widened. What? He yelled as bugs began to crawl over him. He then looked to the boy he had sliced in half. He had turned into a bug cloud. I see Aburame, Riku thought. Lightning style, lightning expulsion jutsu. As he said this, he began to glow light yellow. Suddenly, a burst of lightning exploded from him outward in a wave, him being the epicenter. This wave of electricity electrocuted all the bugs that were on Riku. Much better, Riku muttered, but noted that he had to quickly dodge an attack. Ninja art, double piercing Fang 2 tornadoes whirled towards Riku at high speed. And an Inazuka, Riku thought as he saw the incoming attack. Your power is impressive, but you lack technique, Riku spoke as he blurred out of sight. Riku reappeared behind Kiba and Akamaru, both his swords were drawn and facing outward. His face was downward, causing shadows to cover his face. Akamaru and Kiba were still in their attack forms of mini tornadoes in mid-air. The sun reflected off his twin katanas for a moment. In that moment, a slash appeared across Kiba and Akamaru's tornadoes. Red blood spurted out. They both lost their speed and fell to the ground, hitting it hard. Arg, Kiba cursed. Akamaru whimpered as he hit the ground. Akamaru. Kiba yelled and fought through his own pain to rush to his fallen companion. Riku stood, a sword in each hand, looking at the two companions. An attack from behind. You must learn not to telegraph your attack, Aburame, Riku spoke. Riku tensed for a moment, then blurred right in front of Shino's bug cloud that was stalking behind Riku. The bug cloud surrounded Riku quickly and attempted to close in. But in a flurry of slashes from both blades, Riku cut every single bug which attempted to latch onto him. Shino's eyes widened. Riku stood amongst the bugs that fell to the ground, dead. Now it's my turn, Riku said and tensed, but then he noted an attack coming from behind. He flipped backwards and over Hinata, who had attempted a palm strike at Riku. Riku landed behind Hinata, whose eyes were wide at the speed at which he evaded her attack. It's too late, Hyuga, Riku said, then blurred out of sight. Shino's eyes widened as he watched the scene. He had seen what happened to Kiba, and he knew what was about to happen to Hinata, but there was nothing he could do. He just wasn't strong enough. Shino's eyes widened at the scene. Hinata had not been sliced by Riku. Instead, Riku stood with his two blades clashed against one. The one blade belonged to a blonde boy with blue eyes. Shino recognized the boy as someone he had seen before. Naruto grit his teeth at the pressure he was under from the man with two blades. He pushed upward in one mighty push. Kenjutsu, chakra blade. As he yelled this, a blue blade of chakra escaped Naruto's blade and carried Riku backwards. Riku grit his teeth, but then swung both his swords outward, cutting the chakra blade in two and letting the end sail past him and hit the ground harmlessly. Riku took in the new arrival, then spoke, it would seem backup has arrived. Naruto grit his teeth, two swords. You look rather confident. Riku looked at the boy with blonde hair, the look in his eyes, there is no shred of doubt in them. He is convinced he has already won this battle. It is not the number of swords that will allow me to defeat you, Riku spoke, it is merely skill which I will defeat you with. Naruto shook his head, a smirk on his face. You're either very skilled, or very stupid for challenging me with 2 blades. Riku smirked also. I am aware of the openings that a dual-wielded opponent may create, but you will find none when facing me. Naruto's smile became maniacal, his eyes turned red. Let's dance. And with that, Naruto began to run forward. You're slow, Riku spoke as he moved his head left to dodge a thrust at his head from Naruto. Riku countered by swinging one sword at Naruto's midsection. Naruto blocked the blade with his sword. Then, the other blade came down on his head. Naruto smirked. It was not that Riku would not leave any openings, it was that Riku would try and read Naruto's skill level and adjust his offensiveness thus. He would never go past the point where he could not defend Naruto's counters. But Riku was wrong about Naruto's skill, wrong about his speed to be exact. Naruto smirked and with his free hand, quickly made a one-handed ram seal. Kai, he whispered, and a burst of chakra was visibly noticeable. Riku noted this as his blade came down on Naruto. But just before it could make contact, Naruto blurred out of sight. Riku's eyes widened as Naruto appeared right inside his guard. Naruto slashed at Riku's midsection. Riku attempted to jump backwards away from Naruto, but the attack had connected. Arg! Riku mumbled as he jumped back, a deep cut going across his stomach. Disappear, I'm not done yet. Naruto yelled as he promptly disappeared. Riku's eyes widened as he totally lost track of Naruto. Naruto appeared in front of him, a spiraling blue ball of chakra quickly gathered in his hand. Rasengan! Naruto yelled and slammed the blue ball of chakra into Riku's gut. The attack connected and the Rasengan began to tear into Riku. Naruto released the Rasengan and watched as Riku flew backward, spiraling in the process. Soon, he hit the window of a store and fell through, glass tearing into his skin. Naruto exhaled as he saw Riku fly through the window. He then turned to look at the team he had rescued. Kiba lay on the ground as Hinata attempted to rub some kind of medical lotion on his cut. Shino kneeled beside them. Shino turned his head to look at Naruto, who stood looking at them. I am your backup, Naruto spoke, but I'm sure you've already figured that out. Shino's eyes widened as he noted Naruto. Naruto was the same age as all of them. Shino let the surprise leave him, then spoke, thank you, I am merely following orders. Naruto spoke, but it would seem that your attacker isn't dead yet. As Naruto said this, he turned to look at the window in which Riku had flown through. I thought that the Rasengan would be enough. Naruto said this, tightening his grip on his blade. Riku stepped over the broken window sill and walked out onto the street, both swords in his hand. I underestimated you, Riku spoke. Naruto nodded. What is your name? Riku spoke. Riku Saburo. Naruto nodded. Uzumaki. Naruto. Shino's eyes widened as he heard the name. He remembered Kurenai had mentioned it once during a training session. Riku nodded. Such scary speed, along with devastating skill for one of your age. Naruto nodded. You're no pushover yourself, Riku. Riku smiled. That jutsu, you called it the Rasengan. Naruto nodded. His body was tensed for an attack at any moment's notice. It would seem the damage caused from it has been extensive. I will take my retreat for now, Riku spoke. Naruto's face took on a look of slight anger. I cannot let you leave here alive. I see, then I will fight you to the death, Riku spoke, getting into fighting stance. His stance was off though. It was obvious he was feeling pain from the Rasengan. I'm not in any state to complete a full dance in this state. Keeping up with his speed in the first place will be difficult, Riku thought. Riku let loose of all doubts in his mind and rushed Naruto. Naruto stood as Riku came in with a horizontal slice with his right sword. Naruto ducked under the slash, and brought his blade outward to the left to deflect an attempted slice from Riku's left blade. Naruto then pivoted and made a full rotation. Using his momentum, he attempted to slice at Riku's head. Riku brought his right blade up to block the attack. He then threw his left blade straight up into the air. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw Riku discard his blade. But he had to quickly move his head as a punch with Riku's left hand came in. Naruto pushed forward on his blade, forcing Riku's arm away. He then thrust his sword at Riku's head. Riku ducked from the thrust, then with his left arm, attempted an attack at Naruto. Naruto was prepared for the punch from the left, but he had made a critical error. Naruto's eyes widened as he was sliced from the blade in Riku's left hand. But Riku was not done yet. He sliced Naruto with his right blade, spun and sliced with his left, then performed a full 360, and ended with swinging both blades at Naruto's midsection. Shit, Naruto thought as he jumped backward, all of Riku's attacks had connected. Riku looked at Naruto, both katanas in his hands. It would seem you are still green genin, despite your skill. Naruto grit his teeth. He had forgotten to pay attention to the blade that Riku had thrown into the air. Riku had thrown his left blade in the air, while continuing his assault with his right blade. He even threw in a punch with his left to convince Naruto that punches were what was expected to be always coming. Naruto had then adjusted his defense to be able to block the range that a punch would travel from the left side, while still blocking the sword's range on the right. Then, the sword came back down and landed in Riku's left hand, just as Riku was going for a slice with his left hand. As a sword increases the range of one's attacks, Naruto wasn't prepared for the increased range that a sword would give. If not for quick reflexes, Naruto could have been critically injured. Riku grit his teeth. I must admit though you have quick reflexes though that combination would have been the death of others, but now I will finish dash. But Riku couldn't finish his sentence as he went on his knees, clutching his gut. Riku grumbled holding his stomach. The pain of the Rasengan had come back. Naruto saw the opening that Riku had just created, then whispered. Disappear. As he said this, he disappeared from existence. Riku's eyes widened as he lost track of Naruto yet again. That move again. The one he used to hit me with his Rasengan. Riku tensed, preparing for an attack from all directions. Suddenly, the ground began to deform as if something was attempting to break through. An attack from below. Riku thought as he jumped into the air. That was his mistake. Naruto appeared above Riku, sword ready to be swung. Riku noticed movement above him and looked upward, but it was too late. Kenjutsu, Chakra Blade. A crescent blue blade of chakra was emitted from Naruto's blade. Riku's eyes widened as the attack connected from point-blank range. The attack hit him along his body vertically, and sent him flying downward at a high speed. Boom! But Naruto wasn't done yet. He quickly formed another Rasengan in his free left hand and let gravity take him towards Riku. Rasengan. As Naruto drew close to Riku, he thrust his free hand forward. The Rasengan was aimed for his gut. Earth style, earth wall. Naruto's eyes widened as a dome surrounded the prone Riku. It was too late to cancel the attack. Naruto thrust his Rasengan into the dome. The Rasengan tore into the earth dome and it broke through. But just as that happened, the Rasengan had also reached its limits and disappeared. Earth style, earth spikes. Naruto looked to his left to see the source of the earth jutsu. It was a tall, but extremely muscular man with a bandana. His teeth were yellow and he wore black shades which covered his eyes. He wore an overcoat with a collar similar to Riku's, but he had no t-shirt under. His pants were shinobi pants and he wore no shoes. Naruto returned his attention back to the dome of earth which sprouted spikes which flew at Naruto with breakneck speed. Naruto adjusted himself in midair to dodge one of the spikes. He dodged another, then planted his feet on the spike. He used it as a platform to jump out of the way. The spikes followed Naruto as he jumped away. Naruto saw the spikes following him. He grit his teeth as the spikes came closer. He stood with his eyes closed until the spikes were right at him. His eyes flew open, but they were different. He had orange eyeshadow and his pupil was yellow with a black rectangular iris. Sage mode. The spikes impacted Naruto, and dust was produced. A dust cloud covered the scene. Shino's eyes were widened. Had the spikes killed Naruto? As the dust cloud settled, Naruto could be visible. There were tears in his clothing where the spikes entered, but there was no tear in Naruto's skin. There was not even a scratch. Shino's eyes widened. The person who had conjured the jutsu also had his eyes wide. Impossible, he yelled. The spikes lay in pieces on the ground. They had had no effect on Naruto whatsoever. Naruto tightened his grip on his sword, then looked towards his new attacker. Naruto growled, "You interfered," the man spoke. "Really, I'm sorry, I just couldn't allow Riku here to die by a child's hands." Naruto growled yet again, becoming angrier. "Then you will die also." Naruto prepared to blur out of sight, but a voice stopped him. "Naruto," the voice was calm and collected. Naruto looked behind him to see Shino standing before him. "Naruto, we have injured, it might be best for us to let them retreat." Naruto grit his teeth and watched as a pillar of earth carried Riku towards the new arrival. Naruto regained composure, then spoke, "I will allow you to retreat." The new arrival smirked, "Do not fret, we will finish this, just not right now." He lifted Riku over his shoulder, then spoke once more, "I will see you around," and with that the man's sun shined away. Naruto watched the spot where the man had disappeared. He calmed himself down, then looked at Shino, who was standing behind him. "Report, sir, our Jounin-sensei was kidnapped while on this mission. We stayed in an inn for a day afterwards. But this morning, they came to the inn looking for us. We escaped but were followed by the man you fought." Shino spoke in a business-like tone. Naruto nodded. "I see, then my top priority is to rescue Kurenai. I hate to say this, but you all will just get in my way." Shino nodded. "Then, I will escort you to the border of Fire Country tonight. From there, you will make your way to Konoha. I will send them a message of your return. If you have not reached Konoha in 2 days' time, they will send ninja to look for you. I will return to this village after escorting you to Fire Country and rescue your Jounin-sensei." Shino nodded. "Thank you, Naruto-san." Naruto nodded. "Get your stuff. We're off." It was just after nightfall in the fishing village. Naruto had returned after taking Team 8 to Fire Country. Naruto walked into the inn. He had taken Team 8 to Fire Country and had let them go the rest of the way. They were an intriguing team to say the least. Flashback. "So Naruto-san," Kiba asked. Naruto looked towards Kiba. "Kiba, so are you a genin then?" Kiba asked. Everyone else in the group grew quieter. It would seem that they wanted to know the answer also. Naruto looked at them and nodded. "I'm on a team with Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura." Kiba looked surprised. "You're on Sasuke's team?" Naruto nodded, then looked to Shino, who had remained quiet. "You have a question to ask. Ask it." "Naruto-san, why are you a genin?" Shino asked. Naruto's face changed, then he spoke. "To gain teamwork experience, you could say that I'm pretty used to working alone." Shino nodded. Then surprisingly Hinata spoke. Naruto-san, well," Hinata stuttered. "Speak your mind, Hyuga," Naruto spoke. Hinata continued. "I've never seen you in the academy. How is it that how are you so strong?" Hinata looked like it took all of her strength just to get that question out. Naruto stared at her, then spoke. "I was trained outside of Konoha, that is all you need to know." Hinata looked solemn. "Sorry, I didn't mean to dash," but she was cut off. "It is best we quicken our pace. I want to be at the border by sundown." Naruto spoke. Team 8 nodded and quickened their pace as they traveled towards Konoha. Flashback end. XXXXXXXXXXX. "Where is the owner?" Naruto asked the person at the front desk. "Huh," the man responded. "I asked you where is the owner of this inn," Naruto asked. "Oh, you just missed him," the man responded. "I see, where does he live?" Naruto asked. "I don't think I'm allowed to tell you that," the man spoke. Naruto grit his teeth. "Either you tell me now or I forcefully get the information." The man's eyes widened. "Who are you to be dash?" But he was cut off as he felt the cold sharp tip of Naruto's blade on his throat. "Tell me," Naruto said. His eyes were a shade of red. The man nodded. "Edge of town, a small house number 12. Naruto nodded, then made a hand sign. The bandages re-wrapped around his sword and he placed the sword on his back. Naruto then turned and left the inn without another word, leaving a stunned clerk to ponder on the events which had just occurred. XXX Riku lay on a flat bed. It wasn't very comfortable, though he lay shirtless and bandages covered virtually every part of his torso. The bed rocked back and forth in tune with the shape as it rocked from the steady waves. The door soon swung open to reveal the man that had rescued Riku. He looked at Riku, then walked closer to the bed. He stood over Riku and looked him over. Then, the man spoke. "Riku, your injuries were pretty serious. Most of the cuts were deep and that attack on your abdomen isn't healing quickly at all," the man spoke. Riku nodded. "The Rasengan ninja and their tricks," the man nodded, "but a kid nonetheless. He will no doubt be coming for the prisoner." Riku nodded. "Do you have a plan?" The man grinned savagely. Yuto sat in his study. He was reading some Ika Paradise. It was quite a good book indeed. He was trying to get his mind off of the situation at hand. He had hired ninjas to get rid of the pirate bandits who docked at their ship port. Whenever the pirates came, the town would be in fear. They could easily control the town with that fear. Yuto took initiative that others were too afraid to and called in ninjas, but it would look like Konoha gave them the short end of the stick. The ninja had one of their group members get caught and taken prisoner by the bandits, and then they left. He was truly a fool for trusting ninja, whom he had heard lived in the shadows, awaiting for the moment to slit your throat or stab you in the back. He sighed as he flipped to the next page. Crash! The sound of glass breaking filled the silence of the room. In a blurry of motion, Yuto turned towards the window in his study and saw someone landing inside. His eyes grew wide as he noticed it was a bandit, and the bandit rushed forward. Soon, another bandit fell through the window. "You're mine," the bandit yelled as he rushed towards Yuto, scimitar drawn. Yuto knew there was nothing he could do. But he did not want to see the man's face as he died. So he closed his eyes, but he could hear the heavy footsteps as the bandit rushed at him, eager to end his life. He could sense that the bandit was drawing closer, the footsteps becoming louder. The sword was plunged through Yuto's chest, and blood spurted out of his mouth. "Arg!" he screamed, but his sound was muffled by his own blood. As Yuto fell through the air towards the ground, he heard the bandit speak. "You shouldn't have called ninjas." Yuto hit the ground hard as more blood spurted out. He could feel life leaving him as he opened his eyes one last time, but he did not see what he had expected to. Instead of seeing a bandit staring back at him, he only saw a hooded figure. His sight was blurred and there was a blotch of blood in his eyes. He couldn't see the figure's face, but he could tell he wasn't too tall. He moved his pupil downwards as he noticed the bandits weren't in his sight. As he looked down, he saw the blurred forms of the bandits, blood on their shirts and on the ground, dead. It would seem that the new figure had taken care of the bandits for him. Yuto turned his eyes one last time to look at the figure. He couldn't see the figure's features, but the figure was staring right back at him. He was able to see cerulean eyes, though that was the last thing Yuto saw before his eyes traveled to the back of his head and he lost the last bit of life left in him. Naruto stood and looked at the dead form of Yuto. He grit his teeth. "Damn it," Naruto growled. Too late, but Naruto knew that he had no time to mourn over this man's death. But the man held information which Naruto needed. He knew no such jutsu to uncover memories from a dead corpse. That was a Yamanaka clan specialty. He looked at the dead man, then turned and looked at the bookcase behind him. It would seem this was his study. He then looked towards a desk in the corner of the room. He walked towards it until he was right over it. He saw an open Ika book which made him think back on Jiraiya for just a moment. Then he began to open drawers until he found exactly what he needed, an excerpt from the details of the pirates' whereabouts. Naruto needed to find the ship quickly lest they kill Kurenai. He knew his time was limited. Ever since he made his presence known, he knew that the pirates would figure out he would try and come for Kurenai. So the pirates would probably kill or transfer Kurenai very soon for fear of him coming, and that was ever more likely because of him dispatching one of their high-level bandits. He thought of Riku for a moment, and also of the man who had saved him. Judging by the garbs and the way he held himself in high regard, Naruto could tell that this man was probably the captain of the bandit pirate ship. Naruto sighed. He walked towards the window. He looked once more at the dead body of Yuto, but then a thought crossed his mind. He walked towards a bookshelf and looked for a certain book. He found a book with a silver dollar sign on the spine. He pulled the book out, but it was secured to the bookshelf, so it only tilted outward. As it tilted, a trapdoor swung open from the ceiling, and a ladder fell down swiftly. He climbed up and into the attic to find exactly what he was looking for. A safe. Kane made his way to the Hyuga compound. 20 minutes ago, some ANBU had appeared at his apartment, and said that the leader of the Hyuga clan, Hyuga Hayashi, had sent for him. He willingly obliged, knowing Hayashi's status as a clan head in Konoha, and also one of the most powerful members of the council. Kane wore a tight black t-shirt with a red outlined pattern of a dragon on the back. But it was covered by the short-sleeved black vest he wore. The vest had a fur collar and a red outline of a shark on the back, much like his outfit when he was with Zabuza. His sword was strapped onto his back over his vest at the back. His hair was as spiky as ever, and he wore a headband with no plate or insignia designating his village. The headband was positioned as to cover his right eye, where the eye of intent was transplanted. He walked with the lights of the lamps on either side of the street illuminating his path. He wasn't exactly sure what to expect of Hayashi, but he was sure it would be an interesting encounter to say the least. Naruto was on the dock as he stared at the mighty pirate ship. It was of a decent size, but there seemed to be no activity going on deck. He presumed that all activity was going on below. He surveyed the ship from his hiding spot near the docks, then looked back towards the direction from where he came. He saw the rising smoke. He sighed. It had to be done. He wanted to get rid of all evidence of his murder, in hopes that the people of the town thought it was just some freak accident when his house burned to the ground with him in it. He looked back at the pirate ship, then he blurred out of sight. He reappeared on the water right beside the large ship. He tapped the frame, looking for a sound of something hollow, marking a possible entrance. Once he found one, he drew his blade, infusing it with wind chakra. He then plunged it into the ship, intent on creating an opening. He sliced through the ship, creating a circular entrance. He then used chakra to stick the piece of the ship he cut off to his hand so he was able to pull it outward. As he pulled it out, he let it drop onto the ground, then he stepped into the ship. He dropped into a dark cellar with barrels on every side of the room. He was apparently in a wine cellar from the looks of it. He found the staircase leading upwards into the ship, and made his way up. He opened the door quietly and found an empty hallway. The hall was wooden planked on every side, with lamps on each side of the hall every so many feet. It illuminated the hall nicely, but it was to Naruto's disadvantage. Of course, putting them out at this point would also alert suspicion to his presence. But Naruto was in luck as it seemed that there was truly nobody in the hall. Naruto stood for a moment, then extended his senses. He found only 4 chakra signatures and wondered if the pirates had truly just packed up and left. But then why was the ship still here? Did they truly just leave it behind? Also, he was sure that he detected the signature of Kurenai Yuhi. He could detect a strong female genjutsu type and he could tell that was probably Kurenai. So even if the pirates had left, Kurenai was still on this ship, and therefore needed to be rescued. Naruto opened his eyes and continued down the hall. He was able to pinpoint the location of each signature. 2 of them were on the floor just above him and 2 of them were on the floor right below the top deck. One of the signatures he detected on the floor right below the top deck was Kurenai. And he could detect that the other one was Riku. Naruto continued walking down the hallway until he came across a winding staircase. It went straight up. He made his way to the next floor. As he walked on the next floor, he began to hear voices. He stood still for a moment, closing in on the conversation. He heard faint voices but he could understand their conversation. So then, boss left us in charge of the ship, a voice spoke. Nah. Vice Captain Riku is still here with the captive, another voice responded. But still he included us in the people that he left in charge of the ship while he was gone, the first voice spoke again. Naruto began to itch closer to the room. Hey, do you know when Captain is coming back anyways? The second voice asked. He said he'd be back tonight, the first voice said. Naruto extended his sage senses to pinpoint the exact location of each of the bandits. One was closer to the door than the other, meaning that one would be the one he would take out second if he took out the one closer to the door first, then that would give the second bandit too much time to react, and even though he knew bandits weren't too much of a threat judging by skill alone, he well knew that anyone could easily be a threat if given the proper opportunity. Damn, the prisoner was hot, but Captain didn't let us do anything with her, the first voice spoke again. Humph, Captain probably just wanted her all for himself, she was a fine catch, the second voice said. I wish I could have just thud. The man was interrupted as the door of the room went flying through the air. The man's eyes were wide as he watched the door fly through the air. But that was all the distraction that was needed. A kunai flew right in front of his face past him. He held his breath, it had missed him by just a hair. But then he looked in the direction that the kunai was going, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The other bandit was falling backwards, kunai embedded in his skull as blood oozed out. His eyes widened as he saw his fellow bandit fall to the ground dead, then he quickly turned to the door, but all these distractions had added up time. He was only able to see it for a moment, a blur appearing in front of him. The figure's arm reached towards the bandit's head. The bandit freaked as he saw a kunai slide into the figure's hand from his sleeve. "No!" he yelled, but it was too late. The kunai was plunged into the man's skull and he fell backward as Naruto pushed him back. He fell towards the ground, life leaving him. The last thing he saw was the hooded figure whose face was hidden in a veil of shadows. His eyes were a cold blue. Damn, his last words were quiet, but Naruto heard nonetheless. Naruto looked at the scene. He would have kept one alive if he had thought that they held sufficient information, but just from that tiny conversation, Naruto could tell they held little to none. But then that would mean that they were not high in rank at all. Why would the captain of the ship leave them of all people with Riku, who was probably the strongest person on the ship? He cleared his head of these thoughts and walked out of the room. He looked down the hall. This hall had no lanterns on any side, so it was pitch dark. Naruto sighed as he detected Riku and Kurenai 2 floors above him. If they were the only ones left in the ship, then Naruto had little to worry about. He began to make his way to Riku and Kurenai. XXX, Hayashi-sama, there is a boy here who says that you sent for him, Kane, a man spoke. Hayashi nodded, yes, let him in. The man nodded, hi, Hayashi-sama. As he said this, he opened the door and Kane walked in. Kane surveyed the room. It was a small study. There was a desk on one side of the room that left only enough space between it and the wall for a chair. On either side of the chair against the wall, bookcases framed the room. Behind the chair in a space was a portrait of Hyuga Hayashi. Hayashi sat behind the desk and watched Kane as he sat in the chair on the other side. Kane, Hayashi spoke. Hyuga Hayashi, Kane responded. Hayashi's brow furrowed at his lack of respect. I am your elder boy, show some respect. Kane smirked, respect is something earned, and you have yet to earn it. Hayashi scowled, but then smirked, very well then I merely called you here to thank you. Kane smirked, there is no need for such action. The night was actually helpful. Hayashi hummed, how so? I guess you could say that night sealed my status as a soon-to-be Konoha shinobi, Kane responded. Hayashi was intrigued, and what makes you say that? Simple, Konoha has grown weak in this time of peace, as Naruto has pointed out many times before. Kane paused, Naruto? You know Uzumaki Naruto then? Hayashi asked. Indeed. Konoha has grown weak, they would not pass up on an opportunity for a new Dojutsu or Kekkai Genkai, Kane finished. Dojutsu? Hayashi asked, there is no Dojutsu superior to the Byakugan. That is wrong, Kane spoke, the legend speaks of a sage who had eyes of Ripple the Rinnegan, that is merely fiction, Hayashi responded. Maybe, Kane spoke, but I hold the eye of intent, Hayashi spoke, I have heard of that somewhere, Kane nodded, it was taken from IWA during the last Shinobi World War. I see, and how is it that you have acquired it? Hayashi asked. Kane smirked, everyone has their secrets, Hyuga Hayashi, but I'm sure you'll find out how soon enough. Hayashi frowned and furrowed his brow, I see, well then, I thank you for coming here today." Kane stood up as he recognized that as the gesture to leave. "I will see you, Hayashi-sama." Hayashi noticed the ending to his name, then smirked. "I did not get your last name." Kane turned and walked away, and he spoke as he left. "That is because I didn't give it to you," and with that, Kane left the room. Naruto was in the hallway on the same level as where he detected Riku and Kurenai. When Naruto pinpointed their location, he realized that they were in the same room. But Naruto couldn't help but have thoughts cloud his mind. First, he did not like the captain of the ship's random disappearance. Why would he just leave? Also, from the reports Naruto had stolen from Yuto's study, the pirates were numbering in at around 70. Did the captain truly take all of his shipmates with him and leave only the 3 that he left behind? And why leave such incompetent bandits and then a high-level one like Riku? It did not make any sense. Those were Naruto's thoughts as he approached the room where he could feel the radiating chakra signature of Riku and Kurenai. He stood in front of the door. Something just didn't feel right. He heard absolutely no sound coming from the room, not even a faint heartbeat. He could not feel the presence of either of them, which he should have been able to at this range, and yet he could detect their chakra signatures. It wasn't possible that they were suppressing their signatures? Why would Kurenai want to keep herself from being found? But then it hit Naruto. Suppression seals could easily mask one's presence. But it would seem as if whoever made the seal did not know how to max one's chakra signature also. But then again, masking one's chakra signature is a master-level sealing technique, one which Naruto had only vaguely mastered. He pinpointed the location of each of them. They were quite close to one another, right beside each other, right beside each other. Naruto thought, that'll make this slightly more difficult. Then in a flurry of movement, Naruto kicked the door inward, sending it flying into the room. He blurred out of sight and reappeared in the center of the room. What? Naruto thought as he surveyed the room. Seals lined every corner of the room except for the far wall. On the far wall were 2 seals alone. They read, "Chakra signature" on them. "Those are..." Naruto spoke. "Wait, that means that..." But his thoughts were cut off as he noted the other seals in the room. "Those are..." Naruto's eyes widened as he realized the seals on the wall. They were all sensory seals with the ability to detect any object or person which entered their set zone or radius. But then a faint sizzling sound was heard. Naruto looked down below him and his eyes widened even more. The seal right under Naruto read, "Explosion." Shit. Boom! Kane walked through a small clearing in the Hyuga compound. His meeting with Hayashi had been interesting, but now he needed to get home and rest, but it would seem he would not be able to. "Hyuga Niji. What brings you here?" Kane asked. Niji made his presence known as he walked into the lighting of the courtyard. "You are friends with Naruto, are you not?" Kane responded, listening in. "I see." Niji frowned. "Not really, but I can read lips." Kane nodded, "An impressive ability and useful for one with the Byakugan." Niji nodded. "The eye of intent, I would like to see it." Kane frowned. "Everyone has their secrets." Niji nodded. "Then I will show you my Byakugan if you show me your eye." Kane thought of Niji's proposal, then nodded. "If you insist," and as he said this, he reached for his headband. He slowly lifted the headband off of his right eye, revealing a purple eye with a slit. Niji also activated his Dojutsu, Byakugan, he whispered, and his eyes flared to life. "So then what does it do?" Niji asked. "I'll show you," Kane responded, then shut his right eye. Then, he opened it in a flash. What followed was a sensation that made Niji want to hurl out his insides. It was killing intent. Niji stumbled backwards from the force of the killing intent, then he fell to his knees, clutching his head in agony. "Arg!" Niji yelled. As he yelled this, Kane stopped radiating killing intent. He turned and began to walk away as Niji struggled to stand up, and that is only the beginning. Niji watched as Kane left. Jealousy and amazement filled his eyes. Naruto floated on the water's surface. Debris and wood planks floated around him. He sighed. That was too close for comfort. He had managed to escape the blast by using disappear, but to clear the radius of the blast he had to disappear again and travel a good 100 meters away. And the blast was fast, really fast. Naruto had escaped, but he had burns on his left leg and on both arms. Naruto knew that the factors that affected how much chakra disappear would take were how far you were attempting to travel, how tired you were, and if you've attempted it recently. The first disappear took Mabibi 1/5 of his chakra. But then he did another one in rapid succession and at a far distance. That would have made it take perhaps 3/5 of his chakra, leaving him nearly drained with only 1/5 of his normal reserve. Now Naruto knew that even 1/5 for him was a high Chunin level chakra reserve, but he still felt drained as he had not been drained to 1/5 of his chakra in some time and he was not used to the sensation to say the least. Naruto grit his teeth and stood on the water's surface. He looked where the ship used to be. Only various planks of wood were left. Any piece of the original structure that had stayed intact had descended to the sea's bottom. Naruto stood up and began to walk towards the docks. He had fallen for the trap. The two seals that were alone on the wall were signature seals, or seals which could replicate chakra signatures. It would seem they had used these seals to replicate the chakra signature of Kurenai and Riku. Now the seals which covered the walls were sensory seals which could sense anything which entered their radius. And lastly, the explosive seal. Now whoever laid out the seals had connected the sensory and the explosive seals. And not just that, but they had connected the explosive seal in the room with many other explosive seals all around the ship. Naruto had not noticed these, but they were probably hidden just under the wood of the ship. So when he entered the room and triggered the sensory seal, that in turn triggered the explosive seal under him, which triggered various explosive seals located all around the ship. And not just that, but at the beginning, to not arouse Naruto's suspicions and to get him off of the idea of a chakra signature seal, the captain had left two incompetent guards for Naruto to dispatch. Naruto grit his teeth in anger. He had been tricked, and he had fallen for the trap. Naruto reached the dock and set foot on land. He could already feel eyes on him. The townspeople had obviously heard and/or seen the explosion of the ship and were curious as to what happened. Naruto moved the metallic fingers of his gauntlet in his left hand. Naruto needed rest to recover his chakra and heal. With the Kyuubi's chakra, the burns would heal in no time, but still he needed rest. He would seek the inn that he had gotten the information of Yuto's home. XXXXXXXXXXXXX, Sir, reports from Bandit Squad 3 say that the ship blew up, a bandit reported. I see any reports of a figure exiting the ship? The captain asked. Not yet, sir, but we'll keep an eye. The bandit started but was cut off as the captain reached for a slip of paper on the table beside him. The kanji on it read, sensory, and it was glowing. The captain grit his teeth. Fortify all defenses. The man I sought to kill is still alive. Hi, Captain Sama, the bandit responded. And also if he has survived he is most likely injured and weak. Find and kill him immediately. Hi, the bandit responded, then left the room. The captain watched the bandit leave, then thought of his new adversary. This Uzumaki Naruto had dispatched his strongest bandit and had infiltrated his ship. He had triggered the trap and the explosion, yet escaped alive. Uzumaki Naruto, the captain said to himself, you are proving to be quite an annoyance. The next day, Naruto woke up but not naturally. He stirred in his sleep for a moment before he sat upright on his bed. He rolled his head, a popping sound came from Naruto's neck. Naruto then cracked his knuckles, many popping sounds were heard to Naruto's satisfaction. No dreams haunted Naruto's sleep as he was awoken by a sound coming from down the hall. He could easily recognize the loud voices. It would seem that someone had sent an executioner. Naruto smirked as he got out of bed. The sounds were getting closer. So which room is he in? One asked. Third last on the left, the second voice spoke. Naruto recognized that voice as the voice of the man he had threatened to get the information on Yuto's home. Naruto stood and looked at the door as he heard the footsteps draw even closer. If one looked to his face, you would see a smirk. The door swung open to reveal two bandits. Where is he? One asked. The other bandit shrugged, then he spoke to the innkeeper. What kind of trick is this? We weren't joking about killing you, you know, he spoke. No, I checked him into this room, I remember, but he was cut off. A figure dropped down from above and took down one of the bandits. The second bandit's eyes widened as he saw his fellow bandit get taken down. A kunai was lunged into the other bandit's skull. The figure now kneeled on top of the downed bandit between the innkeeper and the other bandit who was inside the room. The two remaining people's eyes widened as they saw the figure, but it was just for a moment. In a swift movement, the figure got up, turned, and slammed the door close. The bandit finally escaped his stupor and drew his sword. In the moment when the figure closed the door, the bandit went for a slice at his head. Naruto swiftly continued the rotation, ducking under the slice and sweeping the bandit's legs. The bandit began to fall backwards as his legs were taken from under him, but Naruto did not give him that chance. Naruto, using his momentum, continued to spin and then ended with a kick to the bandit's chest, sending him flying into the wall. The bandit hit the wall with a thud, then landed on the ground. Before he could even stand up, Naruto was upon him with a sword to the throat. Where have you come from? Naruto growled. The bandit began to sweat. Nowhere. Naruto grew angry, and his next words came out fiercer than before. If you do not tell me. At this point Naruto pushed his blade slightly forward, drawing a trickle of blood on the bandit. Then I will kill you. I don't know anything, the bandit said, scared for his life. Naruto smirked. Then I will make you tell me. At this point, 3 shadow clones poofed into existence behind Naruto. Each had their blade drawn. Naruto grabbed the bandit with his gauntlet by the neck, and held him up against the wall. The 3 other Narutos came forward. One thrust his blade into the bandit's shoulder. Another in his leg, and one more in his upper arm. The bandit screamed out in pain. Naruto's grin became maniacal. Continue to scream. I have this room soundproofed, nobody will hear you. The bandit's eyes grew wide, then he spoke, okay, I'll tell you, just don't kill me. The bandit's words were quick and between his hurried breaths. It was obvious that he was in a lot of pain. Where is your captain? Naruto asked. The mountains to the east. He has a hideout there, a fort, the bandit responded. Naruto nodded. That is all I needed to know. Your usefulness has been spent. The bandit's eyes widened. Wait. But you said dash, but the bandit was cut off as Naruto thrust his blade through his neck. Arg, the bandit gurgled as he coughed up blood, then life left him. Naruto dispelled his clones, then looked out of the window. He looked towards the east and the high mountains which were there. Those were the only mountains anywhere near Wave. It would make a fitting hideout as he heard the sounds of other bandits down the hall responding to the commotion he had made with the door. Naruto decided it was time to make his escape. He jumped out of the window, intent on heading eastward towards the bandits' hideout. Thud, Kane fell to the ground yet again, sword falling out of his hand. His breaths were hurried, but he attempted to slow his breathing as to get in some oxygen. He was absolutely exhausted. This training session with Hayate was nothing to joke about. Hayate was trying to help him develop his own sword style, because he thought it would be easier than learning his own. Stand up, cough, Hayate spoke. Kane got up to his feet, gripping the hilt of his blade with both hands. Hayate had given his strict orders. No using chakra to enhance any muscle movement. It was harder than he thought because of Hayate's sheer skill. It seemed a simple task for Hayate to counter, and evade anything that Kane tried to throw at him. Kane rushed at Hayate, sword in one hand. He jumped into the air and swung downward at Hayate. Hayate pivoted, completing one rotation, then as he finished he swung and parried Kane's blade. Kane flew backwards from the force, landed in a one-handed handstand, then flipped back onto his feet. He rushed forward yet again. Kane attempted to thrust at Hayate. Hayate brought his sword vertically and deflected the strike, while moving left. Kane attempted to slice at Hayate from his sword's current position. Hayate brought his sword to his left and blocked the strike. Kane then spun counterclockwise, ending the rotation with a strike. Hayate also attempted to strike Kane. Both attacks connected, and parried each other. But it was Hayate who was first to react. Hayate used the backward momentum of the parry to quickly complete a spin, then at the end he swung at Kane's neck. Kane bent backward as the sword swung just over his face. Kane then put his free hand on the ground, and kicked at Hayate's hand, trying to disarm him. Hayate saw this and jumped over Kane, landing on the other side of a still horizontal Kane. Kane saw this and propelled off his free hand at Hayate. Hayate saw the unorthodox attack and ducked, allowing Kane to sail over his head. Kane landed on the other side of Hayate, but then saw something that made him very annoyed. Hayate had begun to use that move again. He was moving very quickly, leaving after images everywhere. Kane looked all around him as dust picked up everywhere. Kane grit his teeth, as he felt a cut appear on his body. He then ducked as another slice went just over his head. He then attempted to leg sweep Hayate, but his leg went through only an after image. Then Hayate appeared above Kane, his sword over his head. He swung downward at Kane while he descended. Kane was able to see the attack in time to sidestep. Hayate hit the ground, then blurred out of sight. Kane's eyes widened as he tried to locate Hayate. "Don't panic, else you will surely lose," the voice of Hayate came from everywhere. "Too late," a voice exclaimed. Kane's eyes widened as he turned just in time to see Hayate right behind him, sword coming downward upon him. Boom! Naruto peeked his head above the bush. He was on a ridge overlooking the entrance into the bandit hideout. The mountain stretched high above him, and because of how close he was to it, he could not hope to see the top. His location just looked over the entrance a few feet away. There was a downward path to his left that went straight into the opening. 2 bandits guarded the opening, but Naruto knew that they would be the least of his problems. "Kyubi, you realize I am not in a good mood," Naruto spoke quietly. The Kyubi grinned in Naruto's mind. "Allow me to assist you in this petty task," Naruto grinned, with pleasure. As Naruto said this, he closed his eyes for a moment. He opened them in a flash, revealing red eyes with a black slit as a pupil. "Today you will die," the demonic voice of Naruto spoke quietly, then he blurred out of sight. "Oi, why are we guarding this place?" one bandit spoke. "No idea, boss, thinks someone is coming, I think," the other bandit responded. "Who could ever find this place though?" the first one asked. "I really don't dash," he could not finish. Naruto appeared behind the bandits, sword already drawn. Before they could even react, Naruto cleanly sliced both of their heads off. Blood spurted from the opening in their necks as each bandit's lifeless corpse fell to the ground. Their heads also fell and rolled on the floor, the expression of utter surprise still etched onto their dead faces. Naruto grinned maniacally. Today, he turned to face the opening of the cave. "You die by my hands." Then Naruto walked into the darkness of the cave. A dust cloud surrounded Kane, blocking his vision. The dust was getting into his eyes, so he closed them, but he knew that wouldn't go too well. He couldn't find Hayate. After the attack that Kane had just barely dodged, Hayate had once again disappeared. His presence could not be found. But Kane soon calmed down. "Okay, I need to find Hayate. Concentrate," Kane thought. Kane kept his eyes closed, trying to locate Hayate. That was when Hayate struck. Kane held the hilt of his sword over his head with the blade facing downward behind his back. He blocked the strike from Hayate. Hayate's eyes widened at the ease at which Kane blocked the strike. Kane then pushed off Hayate and he jumped back. But Kane decided to continue the assault. Kane ran towards Hayate. Hayate got into stance and waited for Kane to arrive. When Kane went in for a strike, Hayate prepared to counter, but then Kane blurred out of sight. Kane reappeared behind Hayate in mid-attack. Hayate ducked as the sword went over his head. Then, he tried to leg sweep Kane. Kane jumped over the leg sweep and swung his blade down on Hayate's head. Hayate moved to the right to dodge the attack from Kane. Then he swung at Kane. Kane jumped over the swing, turning his body horizontal in the process. In mid-air, Kane spun and swung at Hayate. Hayate held his sword in front of him to block the strike, then pushed Kane off of him. He then rushed forward. He struck at Kane, but Kane parried the attack, reeling Hayate's hand backward. Hayate used the momentum to swing, switching his grip on his sword to a reverse grip while he spun. Then, he thrust his blade at Kane. Kane moved his head to the left to dodge the thrust, then he moved forward quickly, penetrating Hayate's guard. He swung upwards at Hayate. Hayate bent backwards to dodge the attack, then flipped into a handstand. Then, he lifted off the handstand and propelled himself into the air, rapidly descending on Kane. Kane's eyes widened as he saw Hayate going through one-handed seals as he descended. Shit. He said I couldn't use ninjutsu. Crud, he didn't say he couldn't, Kane thought frantically. Solar flare, Hayate exclaimed, and before Kane knew it, he was blinded by a bright light. Ah! Kane yelled, covering his eyes in the process. He began blinking rapidly, trying to ease the pain in his eyes. You know, blinking like that will only, make it last longer, Hayate spoke. Kane quickly stopped blinking. Closing his eyes shut, he blocked off his own sight. But with your eyes closed, Hayate spoke. The sound of close footsteps sounded and Hayate blurred right beside Kane, sword in mid-swing. Can you see, me? Hayate exclaimed, his sword itching closer to Kane. Kane reacted quickly, ducking under the blade. Hayate's eyes widened in surprise, but Kane wasn't done yet. Kane jabbed Hayate in the stomach, then with his free hand, grabbed Hayate's own sword hand. He then brought his knee up and kneed Hayate's elbow the wrong way. Aahhrrgg, Hayate screamed in pain. Kane then grasped the hilt of Hayate's sword, pulling it free of Hayate's grasp. Hayate was now disarmed. Kane finished by kicking Hayate in the stomach, sending him flying backwards. A crunch was heard as the foot made contact and Hayate hit the ground with a thud. But just as quickly as he had fallen, Hayate gracefully flipped back onto his feet. But Kane wasn't going to let him draw another sword. Kane rushed forward, slightly surprising Hayate. Kane blurred out of sight, appearing right in front of Hayate, a sword in each hand. Hayate's eyes were still wide as he ducked under a slice from one sword, but then quickly had to move backwards to dodge the second one. But there was no rest for him as he jumped over the next slice, and then he attempted to kick out at Kane. Kane ducked under the kick with ease, coming upwards with both swords at Hayate. Hayate moved to the left to dodge the strike. Kane spun, then attacked with his left blade. Hayate bent backwards to avoid the upward slice. Then Kane pivoted again, a downward strike now with his right blade. Hayate moved to the right to dodge the attack, then he sprung at Kane. Kane reacted quickly, moving his feet farther apart and crouching, his hands outward with the swords pointing outward also. As Hayate moved forward, Kane blurred out of sight, appearing a few feet behind Hayate. Hayate's movement had ceased. He stood still in the position of attacking Kane. Kane was in the same stance with his head down. Shadows covered his face as he slowly stood up. As he stood fully, he let his arms down to run along his sides. The swords pointed forward at the end of his arm. Arg, Hayate coughed up blood as he fell to one knee. Good spar, Kane spoke. Hayate struggled to get up, agree, it seems you are improving, Kane. Kane turned to look at Hayate. This was when Hayate noticed something strange. Kane. You can open your eyes now, Hayate spoke. What? Kane thought, oh, yeah. As he said this, Kane opened his eyes and the world around him was once more clear. So, when is the next spar? Kane asked. Soon, I believe, though I might have found out your problem, Hayate spoke. Kane raised an eyebrow. You mean my stance? Indeed, when you demonstrated dual wielding in that spar, I was quite impressed at the ease at which you streamed your attacks. I could not pinpoint your flow, therefore making you reasonably unpredictable. Your speed with your strikes was impressive and in rapid succession. You wielded two and once very efficiently for your first time. Hayate ended. Two? Kane asked. Oh right, I did feel a second blade in my hand. It was Hayate's turn to be astonished. You don't remember? Kane thought carefully. I just remember attacking you. Hayate's brow furrowed in confusion, but then a thought came into his head. Were your eyes open or closed? Hayate asked. Kane looked dumbfounded. No idea. Your explosion in aggression came after my attack, solar flare right after you were blinded and were forced to cast away, your sense of sight, Hayate spoke. Kane shrugged. Does it really matter that much? Hayate looked at Kane. I have a theory but I will have to ask the Hokage to confirm it when he returns. For now though you are dismissed. Kane nodded. Hi, Hayate-sensei, and with that, Kane began to make his way out of the training grounds. One more thing, Hayate spoke and caught Kane's attention. Kane turned around to face Hayate, awaiting anything he had to say. Hayate pulled out a scroll from his back pocket, then tossed it at Kane. He caught it, and examined it. My twin blades, fire and ice, that I used during the Third Great Shinobi World War. I figure, you could benefit from them, Hayate spoke. Kane nodded, thank you, and turned to leave the clearing. As he left, he was excited to unseal the twin blades which Hayate had just bestowed upon him. Hiraku opened the door into his private quarters. My sweetheart, he spoke as he moved towards the corner. In the corner lay Kurenai Yuhi. Her ankles were bound by chains to a wall, and her hands were cuffed together. Her clothes were ripped in various places, revealing parts of her chest and hips and behind. He went onto one knee to match Kurenai's height while she was on the floor. He leaned closer, lifting her chin. Kurenai's eyes seemed as if they had lost the hope she had before. Her eyes were empty, shells of the bright red they used to be. Hiraku kissed Kurenai, forcing his tongue into her mouth. After a few moments, he released her. You were a very good capture indeed. Tonight, I plan on having more than the usual fun, if you know what I mean, Hiraku spoke. Kurenai's eyes held no emotion at the word. No sadness, no hatred, nothing. They were truly empty. Tonight will be very fun, don't you agree? I still haven't gotten your name by the way, Hiraku spoke. He waited for an answer but none came. He then smirked. No name needed, then I will simply call you what I wanted tonight, he spoke. Just when he was going to say something else, a boom resounded. Hiraku's eyes widened as he rushed to the window. The fort was constructed with various towers. There were 4 in total. The towers were omuang small buildings attached to each other in clumps. Paths ran through and around the small structures. This area was in a cave with a very high ceiling in front of the buildings. In the front row was an open space. Torches lined the wall, and there were many, making the whole area shine brightly. Various bandits rushed out of their homes and into the large clearing at the front, no doubt also wondering about the commotion. Help! A demon, a bandit yelled, rushing in from the entrance of the cave. A demon! What do you mean? Another bandit yelled. But it was too late. The bandit who had rushed and dropped to the floor, blood gushing out of his head. A kunai also was embedded in his skull. What? Another bandit yelled. What's going on? Another exclaimed. Boom! The sound resided again and the darkened opening of the cave flashed in a bright red light. What the hell is going on? Another bandit yelled. But the sound soon died down, as did the light. A shadow became visible on the wall of the entrance. Somebody's coming, another bandit yelled as he drew his blade. Other bandits quickly followed his example, drawing their own scimitars. A single figure became visible in the entrance, walking in calm and graceful strides. He was hooded, his face hidden in a veil of shadows. Die demon, a bandit yelled as he rushed forward. The figure looked toward the coming bandit, and as he came within range and swung, the figure moved in a swift fashion. The gauntlet of the figure gripped the bandit's neck, choking him. Then in a quick twitch of the finger, the figure crushed the bandit's windpipe. Then, he threw the bandit aside. The other bandits looked on in terror at the figure. Red eyes flashed for a moment under the veil of shadows. The figure extended his free hand with the gauntlet for a moment. Then, red lightning coursed in and around the figure's hand. A deep monotone voice spoke next, but it sounded more demonic than it should have. Raging lightning blade, the figure spoke. As the lightning grew stronger in the figure's hand, the figure reached with his left hand to the hilt of his sword. As he touched the hilt, the bandages which were still on it, even though it was already drawn in his right hand, exploded outward in a burst of red lightning. What was revealed under was that red lightning now coursed down the blade. The figure held the blade outward with his right hand, red lightning now running down the blade. "We can take him. We have numbers," one bandit yelled while thrusting his sword into the air. His spark of confidence ignited other bandits to follow, and as one, all of the bandits in the clearing rushed forward. If one could see through the veil of shadows, they would have seen a maniacal grin. XXXXX Hiraku watched through his window as the carnage before him unfolded. He grit his teeth. The figure was effortlessly disposing of all of his bandits. He had not a speck of blood on him, nor a scratch. Hiraku could only get angrier as yet another bandit went to attack the figure. The figure spun around the slice, then finished the rotation with an attack. He cleanly sliced off the bandit's head. Out of the 60 bandits that were in the compound, only 15 were left. The figure turned to stare at the rest of the bandits who had stayed back while the others had attacked and died. The ground was littered with bodies with blood spilling out of many. "He's a demon," one said, and began to run the other way. But just as he took another step, the figure blurred in front of him, scaring the death out of him. What? But it was too late. The hooded figure cleanly sliced through the bandit, going through his heart in the process. The bandit fell to the ground with a huge cut. Lightning continued to course down the figure's blade as he stared at the rest of the bandits. The bandits looked at the figure with a fear not usually found. They truly feared for their lives. The figure then rushed forward. A single bandit was his target. The bandit saw he was targeted, and as the figure drew close, the bandit swung at the figure in any attempt to stop his own death. But it was to no avail as the figure brought his sword upwards and it cut through the bandit's blade. Then the figure ended it by slicing through the bandit, granting him an early death. The other bandits ran forward at the figure, intent on catching him off guard right after an attack. Oh, how wrong they were! The figure ducked under a swing, then jabbed a now red lightning-infused hand into the bandit's chest. He then stood up, spun and kicked that bandit away. Right after, the figure jumped over another attack, then came down on the bandit's head with an overhead slice. The figure cut straight through the bandit's skull to the neck. Then he brought his blade out in time as yet another strike came. His blade went through this bandit's sword yet again. The bandit's eyes were wide as his sword was cut clean through, and then off went his head. Hiraku grit his teeth as he watched as the last remaining bandits fell. From 60 to 0. This intruder really was something. "Captain," a voice behind Hiraku spoke. Hiraku did not need to turn to know who it was. "Deal with the intruder." "Hi, Hiraku Taicho," the voice spoke. Then, the figure behind Hiraku blurred out of sight, leaving only Hiraku and Kurenai in the room once again. Hiraku sighed. "It seems Konoha has sent good help. Looks like we will have to postpone our fun," and with that, Hiraku returned his eyes to the battlefield. As the figure sliced through the last bandit, he instinctively acted on impulse. Foxsage mode. A sword was swung at the figure, but as it made contact, it promptly shattered into amni pieces. Riku's eyes widened as he jumped away, only a hilt and a shattered blade left on his sword. Riku landed, observing his now broken blade. He looked towards the figure. He looked at the one person who was able to storm his way into a fortress, kill every bandit, and who had come face to face with a high-ranking captain with absolutely no fear in his eyes. This boy was interesting indeed. "It would seem fate had us meet again, Naruto," Riku spoke. Naruto looked to Riku. "It would seem so, but unfortunately the terms at which we meet under are, shall I say, unpleasant." The last word that Naruto uttered came out in a deep and rumbling voice, one which did not belong to Naruto. Riku was a bit surprised by the change in voice. "I see, I knew there was something different about you." Naruto raised an eyebrow under his hood, then call me as what I am." Riku seemed to think about it for a moment, then he spoke, "I believe you to be Uzumaki Naruto. Am I incorrect?" Naruto's brow furrowed as he took in the answer to the question. It was not the answer that Naruto had expected. "No matter, you will die here," Naruto spoke. "If that is what you believe," Riku spoke, "but I would like you to know, do not think things will end the same as last time." As Riku said this, he reached into his pocket, bringing out what looked like a black piece of cloth. Naruto looked confused. Riku sheathed his blade, then tied the band around his eyes, blocking both of them. Naruto's brow furrowed. "Why do you blind yourself?" A smirk crossed Riku's face at this point. "Blind, you say? I'll let you know. Sometimes sight is a hindrance. Sometimes you can see more with your mind than with your eyes." Naruto looked at Riku, then spoke, "There holds truth in your words. Unfortunately, when facing me it holds no value." Riku continued to smirk. "We will see," and in a flash of movement, Riku reached into his back pocket and threw a scroll into the air. Naruto watched Riku as the scroll unraveled in mid-air, and Riku nicked his finger and ran it through the scroll. Naruto watched as a pair of blades popped out. Riku discarded the blade he had currently in his right hand and also the broken one in his left. He grabbed both new blades in his now free hands. Riku took on a stance. "Two blades yet again?" Naruto asked. Riku nodded. "I severely underestimated you before. It will not happen a second time." Naruto nodded. "If you say so, prepare." "Riku, here I come," and with that, Naruto blurred out of sight. "You underestimate me, Uzumaki Naruto." Riku spoke quietly. Right after he spoke this, he ducked under a slice from behind from Naruto. Naruto's eyes were wide, but he quickly escaped his stupor and spun, attempting to gain momentum for another strike. As Naruto finished his turn, he swung at Riku. Riku deflected the strike with his right blade, then went in to strike Naruto with his left. Naruto dodged left to avoid the attack, but Riku swung at him with his right blade. Naruto blocked the strike by putting his own sword vertically in front of him. But Riku wasn't done. Riku pivoted, hitting Naruto with his left blade. Naruto blocked the strike. Then, another pivot and a strike with his right blade again. Naruto moved right, deflecting the blade to his left side. Then Riku jumped into the air over Naruto. He came down quickly, both swords and arms held outward. As he got closer, he spun clockwise, ending with an attack with his left blade. A new momentum had come. Naruto ducked under the strike, then blurred behind Riku. Riku landed and turned, striking Naruto with his right blade. Naruto deflected the blade to his right, but Riku pivoted yet again, attacking with his other blade. Naruto ducked under the swing, and lashed out with his own blade. Riku expertly jumped over the strike, then kicked out at Naruto. The kick impacted Naruto's face, sending him stumbling backwards. Riku landed and wasted no time, rushing Naruto. Wind style, rising tornado. Naruto raised his blade, the wind began to sweep up around him. Riku stopped in his tracks, his eyes still securely covered. In a matter of moments, him and Naruto were totally enclosed in the winds of the tornado. Naruto's eyes flashed red once more, then he vanished from sight. Disappear. Clash. The wind still roared violently as the scene inside was an incredible one. Naruto's own blade was stopped just a few inches from Riku's neck. It was stopped by both Riku's blades on either side of Naruto's. Naruto's eyes were wide. He reacted to counter. "My disappear. Impossible." Naruto grit his teeth, uttering the words for his next jutsu. He did not need hand seals. Wind style, rotation. Naruto forced his blade away from Riku, spinning in the process. He spun once, a dome of wind forming around him and spinning rapidly. Naruto was perfectly still inside the dome as it spun. Ninja art, chakra implosion. The dome stilled for a moment, then it exploded outwards in a powerful burst. It sent Riku flying backwards, and it also destroyed the tornado. Riku flipped in the air and landed on his feet. As the winds died down, he stood and faced Naruto. Naruto looked back at Riku, his own eyes still a beastly red. "Naruto, this battle is going nowhere," a voice in Naruto's head spoke. Naruto spoke aloud. "What do you suggest then?" Draw on my power, all of which you can handle. I cannot allow my host to die by the hands of such a worthless and pitiful human." Naruto nodded, then closed his eyes. "Uzumaki Naruto, do you now see the difference?" Riku asked. But Naruto did not listen. If one didn't know what to feel for, they would not notice the pressure which now lay in the air, but Riku could feel it. "What is that? Is it?" were his thoughts. Then, Naruto opened his eyes in a flash, revealing his bright red demonic pupils. Red chakra began to seep out of Naruto, covering his whole body. Riku's eyes took on even more amazement as the chakra that seeped out of Naruto began to take a form on Naruto. Yes, it almost looked like a fox. Riku's eyes widened as realization. "I see you have given in to the fox." Naruto tossed away his sword. It landed in a corner of the courtyard. He then went on to all fours. "I see you let your animalistic instincts take control," Riku spoke. The demon fox's cloak was a red cloak of chakra which surrounded Naruto. It had the ears, feet, and hands of a fox. In Naruto's current form, the fox's cloak had two tails. "Arrrrrrr!" Naruto growled loudly, letting his inner animal take control for just a moment. Then, he blurred out of sight, a definite increase in his speed. Naruto appeared in mid-attack beside Riku. He lashed out with a large claw at Riku. Riku merely cut through the chakra of Naruto's demonic hand, then he jumped into the air. Naruto reached upwards, sending a large hand of red chakra to follow him. Riku saw this and reacted. He adjusted his body and descended straight towards the burning chakra. Crescent moon strike. He flipped in the air, then gathering momentum he ended his rotation with a slice at Naruto. A blue crescent of chakra descended from Riku's blade, cutting through Naruto's large hand of chakra and heading straight to Naruto. Naruto with a burst of speed blurred out of sight, reappearing above Riku. Riku spun and kicked Naruto in the stomach, sending him flying away. Naruto landed, then sent two huge chakra arms at Riku. Riku jumped out of the way as one slammed down onto the location he was just in. The other went to slam him also. Riku slashed through that chakra hand, then he blurred out of sight. Riku appeared behind Naruto, and slashed Naruto across his back with both blades. Naruto took the hit, but then a force came. Chakra implosion. Naruto let out a howl, then an explosion of chakra occurred, sending Riku flying back and into the wall of the cavern. The ground and ceiling shook from the force of the attack. Naruto went back onto all fours. Riku propelled off the wall and sped at high speed towards Naruto. Naruto flipped sideways out of the way as Riku impacted the ground, a crater becoming visible. Naruto landed, then sped towards Riku. When he was close, he went for a claw swipe. Riku ducked under it, and sliced Naruto with both blades up his stomach. Naruto roared loudly, the ground and ceiling shook once again. Then, Riku plunged both his blades into Naruto. Naruto roared even louder, releasing a mighty wave of chakra. Riku was blown back by the chakra, his sword still in his hands. Riku flipped in mid-air and landed gracefully, facing Naruto. Naruto raised his left claw, chakra began gathering in his palm. The chakra took on the shape of a sphere, and the chakra was blood red. The size of the sphere of chakra was larger than Naruto. Riku's eyes widened at what Naruto did next. The ball of chakra began to shrink as Naruto condensed the chakra. The ground under Naruto gave way as the attack became heavier. As this was happening, two more tails began to form on Naruto's cloak, and as the ball of chakra became the size of a baseball, there were 4 tails on Naruto. Then Riku was truly surprised as Naruto's own skin began to peel off, burning away. At this point, Naruto opened his mouth, a crack was heard as his jaw extended unnaturally. Then, he swallowed the ball of chakra. Naruto then began to expand like a balloon. Riku looked surprised. "What do you plan to do when you can't move, Naruto?" There was no response as the ground under Naruto caved in once more. This was when Riku's eyes widened as Naruto opened his mouth. Demonic burst. A huge beam of chakra was shot from Naruto's mouth, and it headed straight for Riku. Boom xxxxxxx. The ceiling fell apart as large rocks fell into the cavern. The walls themselves began to cave in. Hiraku looked at Kurenai, then walked towards her. He bent down to one knee, then spoke to her. I believe it is time for us to take our leave, Hiraku spoke. Is that what you think? A voice spoke. Hiraku's eyes widened as he turned around. The ground shook once again as Hiraku looked at the figure in his room. The figure was hooded, but he could see black spiky locks of hair under. Also, the figure carried a gigantic sword, one which was much like Zabuza's. Show your face, Hiraku spoke. And if I choose not to, the figure spoke again. Then at least I would like your name, Hiraku spoke. The figure smirked. Name's Zack. I have never heard of you nonetheless. My name is Hiraku. As he said this, he began his hand seals, and you will die here. Earth style, Earth prison. Hiraku slammed his hand into the ground. The earth around Zack caved upwards, trying to form a dome around him. Zack did not move as the dome enclosed around him. Hiraku smirked. Now to finish you, Earth style. Impaling spikes shot up from around the dome, and they all went through the dome, impaling it. Hiraku stood, and smirked, admiring his own work. I would have thought you would last longer. I guess my estimations were too high, Hiraku spoke. Kenjutsu, Hell's Crescent. A crescent of blood-red chakra flew out of the dome and headed towards Hiraku. Hiraku's eyes widened as he ducked under it, but it was too late for him, as Zack made his move. Zack blurred behind Hiraku and cleaved him in half. Hiraku's eyes widened as his torso was split from his lower body. His upper body flew in a different direction as his lower body fell to the ground. Both halves of Hiraku fell to the ground, spewing out blood from the cut opening. Zack humphed. I guess my own hopes were too high also, he spoke to himself. He then turned to Kurenai. Kurenai looked at Zack with both gratefulness and fear. Kurenai Yuhi, Zack spoke as he walked closer to Kurenai. Zack could see the fear in her eyes, but he still walked closer. We must get you out of here. Your skill in genjutsu is too high for my master to lose. You will come to be important in due time, Zack spoke. The ceiling began to crumble as the whole tower threatened to fall apart. Quickly, he spoke as he bent down, scooping up Kurenai bridal style. Then, Zack sunshined away. Riku kneeled as he rested his weight on his leg. He panted and breathed heavily. He had only just blocked Naruto's attack, but that had taken a burst of speed that Riku had not used in time. He looked over at Naruto, the Kyuubi's chakra receding into him. There were many burn marks on Naruto's face, and parts of his skin were completely burned off also. The burns were severe, and under the skin you could see that even the blood inside him burned. Riku stood. Uzumaki, let us end this. Naruto looked at Riku and closed his eyes. When he opened them, his eyes were red with a horizontal rectangular black iris and another black slit going through it, making it almost like a diamond shape. Naruto also had red eyeshadow around his eyes. Kyuubi Sage Mode, the demonic voice of Naruto spoke. I see the Kyuubi is still in control, Riku spoke again. No, I am Naruto, Naruto spoke, and I agree, let us end this useless charade. Riku nodded and extended both his arms outward. He closed his eyes, then opened them. Checkmate. He expelled a large amount of chakra, and blue chakra gathered around him. It rose upwards like a storm, surrounding Riku. Then, blue lightning extended down both Riku's arms and down his blades. As the lightning hit the blade was infused with it. Suddenly, the chakra that surrounded the blades grew to a huge size. Both the blades now looked like huge clubs, but were still flattened and sharp. Naruto looked upwards to the ceiling as more and more rocks fell. The towers were falling also. Naruto looked at Riku's attack, then he raised up his hand. Raging lightning dragon blade lightning coursed up Naruto's hand until it reached his palm. The lightning was concentrated in his hand, but it coursed down his whole arm. As Naruto reeled his arm behind him, a dragon of lightning grew from Naruto's shoulder and down his arm. Its large head and jaw rested upon Naruto's open palm. This is the end, Naruto spoke. Riku rushed forward at Naruto, both his blades held on the left side of him. Naruto rushed forward also, his right arm clutched his left shoulder as his attack was on his left hand. As they drew closer to each other, Naruto thrust his lightning dragon at Riku. Riku swung his blade to meet Naruto's hand. The attacks clashed in an epic display of lights as each attack struggled to overpower the other. Boom! All was still as the cloud of debris which surrounded both fighters began to drift away. The cavern was near its brink as light shone through spots in the upper walls. The last attack had caused even more damage to the mountain as more and more rocks fell. As the dust cloud cleared, it was the image of Riku standing, his arm bloodied, over a downed Naruto. Naruto bled as he was prone on the floor. Riku looked down at Naruto, then around the cavern which was falling apart. Riku looked at the destruction, to have caused this much damage. Riku then looked back at Naruto, his thoughts were wild. This boy at his young age, he holds much potential, but even I can see the demon has corrupted his mind. Would it do well to kill this boy now? Were Riku's thoughts. Then, Riku noticed something. He spoke out loud. It would seem Hiraku Taicho's chakra signature has diminished, but I did not detect him leaving. He is dead. Riku walked away from Naruto towards the entrance of the cavern. Perhaps we will meet again, Uzumaki Naruto. As Riku said this, he took off the bandana which was around his eyes, letting his natural vision return to him. Then, he sped out of the cavern, leaving Naruto for dead. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto floated in the sewer in front of the Kyuubi's seal. Though it was not water that Naruto was floating on, it was blood. Foolish mortal, even with my power you allowed yourself to be beaten. Naruto had no reply as he continued to float on the blood pool. You are a true fool. No response. Instead of accessing more of my power you let my chakra recede and use the natural chakra of the sage. No response. But I cannot let you die here, for your death means the erasing of my existence. No response. You are quite lucky you have me. It is only my being that you are not dead at this point. Your mind should have been at a breaking point, but as you can see, this pitiful sewer is still intact. No response. Do you have nothing to say? Your ignorance today has nearly cost both our lives. Kyuubi. Naruto spoke to the Kyuubi, surprise. I have suffered defeat after defeat. Why is that? You are a fool to challenge those who are above your stature, am I? Naruto asked. You are probably the strongest of your age. You may let it be so. Do not get into battles you cannot win, for it will be costly for both of us. Naruto nodded. So what's the plan? You are in no condition to move at all. I will heal you. The mountain itself will cave in upon you, but you will live. Your bones may be crushed, but I will repair them. The process may take time, but it will come to fruition. Naruto nodded. How much time? It shall take no more than 2 weeks. The Kyuubi grinned savagely as red chakra began to travel along the pool of blood towards Naruto. As it reached Naruto, it enshrouded him, and when he opened his eyes once again, they were red. Kane widened his eyes as he let out a gasp. Did you sense it? Hi, it looks like Naruto is in trouble. Kane spoke. Do you plan on assisting? Kane nodded, then stood. He grabbed his twin sword, putting the sheaths on his back, crossing in the shape of an X. Let us go. Escaping the Anbu that were tasked to guard Kane was a simple feat. All it took was a shadow clone, a simple genjutsu, and sheer speed. Kane jumped from tree to tree. He was outside of the village, heading towards where he had sensed Naruto and the Kyuubi's chakra. He was troubled by how it seemed to spike, then disappear suddenly. The moon was full that night, but the night itself was a shivering cold. Kane jumped to the next tree branch, then stood still. You sense him? Kane spoke quietly. Hi, he is not fully human. I sense demonic chakra mixed with human chakra. Kane nodded. Is he alone? I sense another diminished chakra signature. Who, though I know not? Kane nodded again, then spoke. It would do well for us to be cautious when moving. Kane's demon agreed with him as Kane took off again, straight on a collision course with an unknown target. Kane stopped yet again after a few more jumps. He stood still, then spoke. Show yourself. Kane spoke into the night. Behind you, a voice spoke. Kane turned around frantically, both hands reaching to his twin swords while he turned. Calm down, the voice spoke. Kane did not listen as he drew his blades, and faced the hooded figure now in front of him. Kane observed the figure. He wore a black cloak and his face was hidden within the shadows of his hood. Kane then noticed that the figure had someone hoisted on his shoulders. He recognized her. "Kurenai," Kane spoke, and he grit his teeth in anger, and began to take stance, but before Kane could do anything, the figure tossed Kurenai at him. Kane's eyes widened as he reacted quickly, catching Kurenai. "Take her back to Konoha, I have other things to do, but trust me, Naruto will be alright, he's got the Kyuubi." "Kurenai, as you say, is priority number one here, am I correct?" the figure spoke. Kane grit his teeth, then spoke. "Who are you?" "Name's Zack," the hooded figure spoke, then he began to turn away from Kane. "Wait!" Kane yelled. Zack turned around once again to face Kane. "What happened to Naruto?" Kane asked. Zack spoke. "Naruto will be fine, just got into a little more than he could handle is all. Now if you don't mind," Zack spoke, "I will take my leave." "Wait!" Kane tried to yell, but Zack quickly sunshined out of the area. As Kane felt Zack's presence disappear, he sighed. He then looked at the unconscious Kurenai in his arms. She was mighty fine. And though some perverse thoughts may have crossed his mind in that moment, he instantly sheathed his blades and began the run back to Konoha. "Hokage-sama, we should reach Konoha by 7 o'clock in the morning if we leave at around 6 a.m., Genma spoke. "I understand," the Hokage spoke. There was underlying tension in the room as everyone could feel something was off. The chakra that they had felt only a few hours ago was one that reminded many of the day of disaster in Konoha, the day of the Kyuubi attack. "Hokage-sama," it was Asuma who spoke, "I understand the situation, but I trust our ANBU and Jounin level can handle any situation in Konoha. I hardly think that the Kyuubi itself could just dash," but Asuma was cut off. "We must hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. There are many things we still don't know about the Fourth Reaper Death Sealing Jutsu," the Hokage spoke. The room was silent for a moment. It was surprisingly Kakashi who spoke next. "I have faith in Naruto's ability to keep the Kyuubi at bay. He has a will like no other," and he ended his statement with his classic eye smile. "I would agree with that, he is strong, that Naruto. I still recall the events on the way to the Kumo," Genma spoke. The Hokage nodded. "I do believe Naruto is unique, but the Kyuubi is powerful, as we have all witnessed." The room grew silent once again as everybody began to recall the events of October 14th, YOSH. "I believe in Naruto's youth. He will overcome." It was Guy who exclaimed this, causing everybody in the room to sweat drop, but the tension was at least now gone. Indeed, were the Hokage's words. Using precise chakra, Kane propelled himself over the gates of Konoha, landing just in front of them. In a matter of seconds, ANBU surrounded Kane. "Where have you been?" one asked. Kane grit his teeth, anger building inside of him. "Can't you see she's hurt?" The ANBU were surprised by Kane's sudden anger, but then they all took in Kurenai. One ANBU looked in disbelief. "What have you been doing, boy?" Kane grit his teeth. "Does that truly matter at this point? Hand her over," another one spoke. Kane nodded as an ANBU walked forward and took Kurenai from Kane's arms. An ANBU spoke to his comrade, "Take her to the hospital." "Hi Taicho," the ANBU responded, then jumped away in the direction of the hospital. The rest of the ANBU then turned to Kane. "And you're coming with us?" Kane frowned at this, and his eyes furrowed. "What have I done?" Kane asked. "You're a suspicious character. You are not a ninja of Konoha, yet you carry weapons with you. You recently were involved in events surrounding the Hyuga, and now you come back with the supposed Kia Jounin of Team 8-inch, the ANBU commander spoke. Kane smirked. "Very well, the Hokage can sort this matter when he returns." The ANBU nodded. "Hand over your weapons." At this point, Kane frowned. "I was given these swords by Gekko Hayate. You will not lay a finger on them." The ANBU commander changed his posture. "That was an order." Kane grit his teeth. "I will first seal them." The ANBU commander looked as if to contest, but then he nodded. Reaching into his back pocket, Kane brought out a small sealing scroll. He then began the process of sealing his scrolls, much to the ANBU's fascination. After all, a child with knowledge of seals was quite rare. When Kane was satisfied with his sealing, he handed the scroll to the ANBU commander. Now, we will escort you to headquarters. You must be blindfolded though, the ANBU spoke. Hi, very well, XXXXXXXX, 7 a.m. next morning, Kane sat cross-legged, his eyes were closed. He was sitting in an ANBU prison cell, his hands were cuffed to the wall, as was his right foot. Kane though was not on the physical plane. His own presence was somewhere else, somewhere deep in his mind, Kane's mindscape. It is morning, a demonic voice in Kane's mindscape spoke. Hi, Kane responded. The silence was quite strange. Hey Gobi, how many hosts have you had? Kane asked. 7, the beast responded. I see, and where would you rank me among them? Kane asked. The 5-tailed beast responded quickly, 5 though you are now weak, I judge you also on potential. You have potential. Kane nodded, then looked around, taking in his mindscape. His mindscape was a large hedge maze. At the center of the maze was a large open field in which the gigantic gobi lay. The only thing containing the gobi were frail-looking chains, testament to the weakness of the seal that was placed on Kane. Hey, I've never truly asked your opinion on this, Kane began. The gobi paid attention. What do you think of Naruto? Kane asked. The gobi looked at Kane after the question, seeming to try to figure out an answer. Then, it came out. Uzumaki Naruto is the Jinchuriki of 9 tails. From what I have seen, he is strong for his age, unbelievably so, and with the Kyuubi his power only increases further, but with that kind of power, he could be corrupted, Kane ended. The gobi nodded. You will do well to keep him on your side, though he is not someone you will want as your enemy. Kane agreed to that last notion. It would seem it is time to release me, Kane spoke. Yes, I sense a presence approaching, the gobi spoke. Kane nodded, and from top to bottom, his presence began to fade away from his mindscape as he re-entered the mortal plane. Kane opened his eyes just as the cell door opened. A man in a Falcon ANBU mask walked in. He spoke in a deep voice, Hokage has just arrived in Konoha, we will take you to him now. Kane nodded, then get me out of these chains. The ANBU looked annoyed. Look kid, don't be acting all tough just cause you think the Hokage's got your back or something. Here at ANBU, it's commander who rules. Kane smirked. I'd like to meet your commander. What would happen if I decided to kill him? Merely a challenge. Take me to the Hokage. Kane spoke. The ANBU looked as if he was going to burst out in anger, but he hid it inside and began to unshackle Kane. Once he was done, he held out a blindfold. Once again you must wear this. This location is classified, you know, the ANBU spoke. Hi, Kane spoke with a smirk. And with that, Kane's sense of sight vanished, but that did not mean he could not still see X. Welcome back Hokage-sama, was the voice of Kotetsu. How was the meeting? Asked Izumo. Hectic, but there seems to be more important matters in Konoha. The Hokage was serious. In that moment, several ANBU dropped in front of the Hokage, kneeling. Hokage-sama, we are happy to see you have returned safely, the ANBU captain spoke. Thank you. I heard information that an attempt to steal a prize Dojutsu of the Hidden Leaf took place only a few days ago, the Hokage responded. Hi Hokage-sama, I would like to brief you personally in your office, the ANBU captain spoke. Very well Kaito, the Hokage spoke to the ANBU captain. Then he turned to face his escorts. You will be paid for an A-rank mission, and I give you my humblest thanks for your services for the past days, the Hokage spoke. It was Genma who spoke. No thanks is necessary Hokage-sama, the Hokage nodded. Now if you will excuse me, and as he said this, he turned and began to walk in the direction of the Hokage tower, Kaito following the Hokage's lead. As the Hokage entered his office, he noted that a certain Hyuga was also present. Hayashi, what bring you here? The Hokage asked. It was Kaito though who answered. The incident was concerning the Byakugan. I felt it was only right to bring in Hayashi-sama, the ANBU captain spoke. Hayashi nodded. Yes, this, shall we call it an incident, has had an effect on the Hyuga clan, and our safety protocols have changed also, the Hokage nodded. So please, he spoke this as he took a seat, explain what exactly happened. Kaito nodded. It began like this Hokage-sama. But before Kaito could begin, a knock on the door was heard. You may enter, the Hokage spoke. The door opened slowly as the figure of an ANBU with a young boy came into scene. The young boy had dark hair, and a bandage on his left cheek. His hair was incredibly spiky. Hokage-sama, welcome back, the Falcon ANBU spoke. Thank you, the Hokage spoke, but he was trying to identify the boy. Then, it came to him. Kane, the Hokage spoke. Kane smirked, I see you remember me, Hokage-sama, the Hokage sighed. What kind of trouble have you gotten into? It was Kaido who spoke. Actually, it fits that the boy is here. He actually played a crucial role in the attempted theft. The Hokage looked puzzled. I see. Well then, please tell me of what transpired. 3 nights ago was when it happened near 11 at night. Me and my team came across the scene of a large crater, along with Kane with Hyuga-sama's daughter, Hyuga Hinata. Also, the dead enemy lay with them. His right eye extracted from his socket supposedly by Kane. The Hokage's eyes widened. What? But Kane interjected, please Hokage-sama. Let me tell you what truly know your place, boy. You are talking to the Hokage now. You have no right to dash. But the ANBU was stopped as the Hokage held his hand up. ANBU, please, let Kane speak if he wishes to, the Hokage spoke. The ANBU looked a little angry, but he nonetheless let Kane speak. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Now, I receive a message from Naruto 4 days ago in the afternoon. He spoke of how he had discovered an attempt to steal the Byakugan. He told me that I should start patrolling the Hyuga compound starting the next day. Impossible, Hayashi spoke. Our own patrols never reported you, and members in patrols do possess the Byakugan. Kane shook his head. You underestimate me, Hayashi-sama. I know how to be stealthy. I am a ninja after all. Hayashi's brow furrowed in annoyance at the young boy countering his thoughts. Anyways, on the night of 3 days ago, I spotted a figure leaving the Hyuga compound with a sack. I followed the figure and engaged him. I defeated him and saved Miss Hyuga Hinata. Kane spoke. The Hokage asked a question, who was the assailant, and from what village? A Jounin-level ninja by the name of Ritsuko. From what village I cannot be sure, but from facts presented I believe he was from the Hidden Lightning. Kane spoke. At this point, everyone in the room's eyes widened. What? Was the Falcon-masked ANBU's response. Kaido spoke quickly. That cannot be right. The Hokage has just returned from a treaty meeting in Lightning. Kane countered. When I fought him, he used a lightning-style jutsu that I believe he called Lightning Javelin. Also, Naruto gave me the tip while he was on the mission to protect the Hokage in Kumo, meaning that he got the information from somewhere in Kumo. The Hokage's eyes dawned understanding. I see. Then the treaty was truly just. Kane nodded. A distraction. Kaido understood the situation, as did Hayashi. Hokage-sama, if I may, what did the treaty that you signed entail? Hayashi asked. It was a treaty of neutrality, and also of free domesticated trade between our two nations through both land and sea. But now I realize the reason for why he tagged on something additional. The Hokage ended. Kaido asked, what exactly did he tag on? He asked specifically for his genin to be allowed in our Chunin exams in a month. A pause was all that was heard as nobody spoke. The ideas were whirling around in everybody's head, and it seemed that they all came to the same conclusion. Do you believe they plan to attack during the exams? Kaido asked. The Hokage nodded. If they coordinated the attack precisely, it could be disastrous. We would have the inside threat of the Raikage and 1 or 2 high Jounin-level Cloud Ninja. Then, we would most likely also have an outside threat. Well, if that is all, Kaido spoke, our Black Ops could probably put together a counter-strategy to No, the Raikage is a lot smarter than that. There is definitely more to this plan that meets the eye. He is unpredictable, and guessing wrong could be disastrous. The Hokage spoke. The Hyuga clan head nodded. I suggest we wait, alert the Jounin immediately, and begin plans in secret. We will plan to counter a general attack, and not to cover a specific type or place, but just to defend Konoha. That way, we will be prepared for just about anything the Raikage may have planned. The Hokage nodded. I believe that is a great plan. It was Kane who interjected quickly. I believe Naruto will be crucial in the coming invasion. Everyone's heads turned to Kane as he spoke this. Naruto? The Hokage asked. Why so? The Hidden Cloud possessed 2 Jinchuriki. The Nibi, and the Hachibi. At the moment, only I am present. Kane spoke. What? the Hokage asked. What do you mean? Kaido was the one that answered. It was Jiraiya's idea to send Naruto out to rescue the captive Kurenai Yuhi on a mission that Team 8, shall we say, encountered slight altercations 2 days ago. Team 8 returned, just slightly injured. Then late last night, Kane appeared in Konoha with the unconscious form of Kurenai Yuhi. What? Kane, is this true? The Hokage asked. Hi, like I told the ANBU when they interrogated me, a man with a large sword had Kurenai and handed her over to me. A man with a large sword? Who was he? The Hokage asked. I do not know, the falcon-masked ANBU interjected. Surely you can't believe his story on how a man handed him Kurenai? It makes no logical sense. ANBU, you should also know your place. I am intrigued by this man you speak of. Kane, the Hokage spoke. Kane nodded. The man also said that he had other things to do, which was why he could not bring Kurenai all the way to Konoha, and also, Naruto has yet to return. The Hokage's eyes widened in surprise yet again. Naruto has not returned? No, Hokage-sama, he has not checked back into Konoha. It was Kaido that spoke. I sensed the Kyuubi's chakra before. I'm sure you must have also, Hokage-sama, Kane asked. Hi, but I would have never thought the situation to be this dire, the Hokage responded. Kane spoke yet again. I suggest a team to go and search for Naruto, and I request to be a part of it. The Hokage nodded. I will see to it that by noon this team is made. Naruto as a young Jinchuriki and powerful ninja will play a crucial part in the coming storm. I see. Well, I thank you all for telling me this, and you may leave, the Hokage spoke. Hi, Hokage-sama, the falcon-masked ANBU and the ANBU captain spoke at the same time. Hayashi merely nodded as they begin to leave. Kane, I would like you to stay for a moment, the Hokage spoke. Kane, like the others, looked very confused, but nonetheless as the others left, Kane stayed. When the doors closed, the Hokage spoke. Kane, I saw your body language when Kaido spoke of the Cloud Ninja's right eye. I believe it may have something to do with the fact that your own right eye is covered. Kane smirked. Hi, Hokage-sama, the ninja that I defeated possessed the eye of Intente Dojutsu, which originated in IWA but was taken by lightning during the Third Great Shinobi War. I transplanted the eye into my own. I see very well, though do not reveal your eye to many unless necessary. It could cause international problems with IWA, seeing as our relationship with them right now is already pretty terrible. The Hokage spoke. Hi, Kane responded. The Hokage nodded. You are excused to leave. Kane nodded as he turned and left the Hokage's office, leaving the Hokage alone to ponder on everything that had gone down while he was away. XXXX, noon, the group assembled in the Hokage's office. The group consisted of Kane, Kakashi, and a masked ANBU. The Hokage sat behind his desk as the others stood in front, facing him. They were still, awaiting the Hokage's orders. Then, the Hokage spoke. I have a mission for you three. Though you have not worked together before, I believe you will be sufficient to completing this mission quickly and effectively, the Hokage spoke. Hi, was the unanimous response of all three ninja. Then the Hokage spoke again. Kakashi, Kane, you will both earn ANBU masks for this mission. Kakashi, you should be quite familiar with them, and Kane, though this goes against protocol, this mission entails the security of this village, and thus falls under Jounin and ANBU. As you are of neither rank, you will wear an ANBU mask for this mission. Is that clear? Hi, Hokage-sama, Kane spoke. The Hokage reached into his drawer, pulling out a small scroll. He unrolled it on his applied chakra, and watched as 2 ANBU masks popped out. One looked clean and new while the other one looked worn. Kakashi, I'm sure you will be happy to see your mask is still in good condition. And Kane, I had a feeling you might like a horse mask, the Hokage spoke. Kane and Kakashi walked to the Hokage's desk, both picking up their respective masks. They then went back to stand beside the already masked ANBU, looking at the Hokage once again. Your mission is to find the supposed MIA, missing in action, ninja, Uzumaki Naruto. He was last seen in a fishing town called Yatsuro Town, located in Wave Country. Our intel says that a mountain began to crumble and deform around afternoon a few days ago just outside that town. Naruto's mission was to rescue Jounin Kurenai Yuhi, who had been taken captive. Kurenai is safe in Konoha, but Naruto has yet to return. Head there, find his trail, and return him to Konoha. That is your mission. Any questions? Nobody spoke. Apparently, everybody perfectly understood exactly what the mission entailed. Good, you are to leave by 3 p.m., the Hokage tossed Kakashi a map. The location is marked on the map. You are dismissed. Hi Hokage-sama, the three spoke, then left the Hokage's room. As the door shut, the Hokage pondered on the chances of the mission being a success considering the events that were set to happen in the coming month. Naruto was truly a vital piece, one that could not be lost. XXXXXXXX. Kane knew exactly what his mission was, but that did not mean he was not in the slightest intimidated. Beside him ran two of the strongest ninja in the village, Kakashi Hatake, and an ANBU who had been identified by Kakashi as Tenzo. Running through the countryside was an interesting experience. Though the team had crescented ANBU masked, meaning they were accepting to do their mission in stealth fashion, the team decided only to take to trees and roofs when they were closer to Naruto's supposed location. And the time was fast approaching. The fishing town was a mere 10 minutes away, so the team took to the rooftops. They continued like that for a few more minutes, until Kakashi called the team to a halt. As Tenzo and Kane stood to look at Kakashi, Kakashi turned and spoke. We don't know the specific location of Naruto. But we do know his supposed location. We will firstly check the mountain site for Naruto. If he is not found, we will look for a trail. And if a trail isn't found, we will then begin searching the town. Do you understand? Hi, was the unanimous response by Tenzo and Kane. Oh, and if you happen to engage hostiles while away from the group, signal with a Katon Jutsu into the air. Kane, do you know a Katon Jutsu? Kakashi asked. I don't know any Katon Jutsu, but I am able to produce a fire large and strong enough to signal that I have engaged any hostiles, Kane responded. Kakashi nodded. Good, now then, let us complete this mission and return Naruto. The team nodded as they jumped from their tree branch in the direction of the fishing village, in hopes of finding Naruto. XXXXX. You? A sword? A man asked. Hi, the other voice responded. The man looked as if he was not taking this seriously. He did not believe that this person of all people would want a sword. Are you sure? The man asked again. Now this is what Sasuke did not like. His status as the last Uchiha apparently prohibited him from getting a sword in the eyes of others. Sasuke had no idea why though. Maybe it was just strange for an Uchiha to have a sword. Yes, I'm sure, Sasuke responded. The man laughed deeply, then spoke. Very well. Sasuke was just a little bit annoyed with this man. He was not imposing whatsoever, yet he felt as if he could mock the Uchiha. That did not sit right with Sasuke. Now then, what kind of sword do you want? Sasuke looked stumped at this. What kind of sword? All he wanted was a sword, damn it. Oh, you don't know? Well then I think actually, a voice interrupted, I believe I may be able to help in that matter. Sasuke looked behind him and the store owner looked over Sasuke, the new arrival. Hayate-san, what brings you here? The man spoke. Hayate? Sasuke had heard that name before. He had heard something about Hayate and Kane from Sakura, but he hadn't paid it too much mind. Now, Sasuke was intrigued to say the least. Sasuke, you are looking for a sword, am I correct? Hayate spoke. Hi, Sasuke responded. Well then, all we have to do is try a few and see which one feels right, Hayate spoke. Hayate gestured for Sasuke to follow him as he walked towards the section of the store in the far left. Lined up on the wall and on tilted shelves were a bunch of swords. They all looked well crafted and all of them seemed pretty similar. There were also a few in glass cases. Those ones looked special for some reason. Those ones had flair. They had unique designs on the hilt and also unique sheaths. But Sasuke had a feeling those were expensive too. Sasuke, catch. A voice spoke. Sasuke looked towards the sound and caught a sword just as Hayate threw it at him. Sasuke looked at the blade. It was a small sword, about half the length of Naruto. Sasuke held the sword in a reverse grip, feeling for its weight. He was not satisfied. Though Hayate noticed something that Sasuke didn't, and when Sasuke told Hayate he did not like the blade, Hayate nodded. "Try this one," Hayate spoke, then tossed a long sword at Sasuke. Sasuke caught the sword, and examined it. The sword was long and very thin. Sasuke noted that the sword was just slightly longer than Naruto's own. It was double-edged. Sasuke held the sword in a reverse grip, and swung it around a few times, getting a feel for it. After that, he looked troubled at something. He held the blade up and looked at the hilt, more so how his hand felt on the hilt. He did not like it. Hayate smiled at this. He knew exactly what fitted Sasuke now. Hayate-san, I don't really think this one is the right one either, it just doesn't feel right," Sasuke spoke. Hayate nodded and walked down to the end of the aisle. He picked up a sword which was hung on a wall. As Sasuke put the sword he had in his hand down on a shelf, Hayate tossed him another sword. "Try this one," he spoke. Sasuke firstly noted something different about the sword. There was no cross brace on the hilt. The hilt was just bandaged, and slightly thicker than the rest of the sword. The sword itself was about the same length as the previous one, just slightly longer than Naruto's again. Sasuke held the sword in his right hand, holding the sword in a reverse grip. Sasuke swung the sword around a few times, noting how it felt. He liked how it balanced, and his hand did not feel awkward on the hilt. Sasuke was intrigued by this sword. "I believe we have found your sword, Sasuke." Sasuke nodded at Hayate as he tossed him the sheath. Sasuke was quite pleased with the outcome of his visit. He had gotten a new sword, one that felt perfect for him, but now there was just one problem. "Excuse me, Hayate-san, but, well, I know," Hayate responded, "you cannot wield that blade, that is why I will teach you. Sunday evenings you will report to me in Training Ground 13. Do you understand?" "Hi," Sasuke responded. "And also in your spare time you may want to get Naruto to teach you a few tricks. He's no amateur with swords, you know, Naruto." It was always Naruto. Ask Naruto for something. If you wanted to get stronger, ask Naruto. Was Naruto truly the answer to everything? "Hi, I will do so," Sasuke responded. Hayate nodded, then walked towards the counter. "Has my order arrived?" "Hi," the man at the counter spoke and reached below him. He pulled out a long katana with a classic hilt. It was pretty ordinary looking. "Sharpened and ready for use," the man spoke. Hayate nodded, "I thank you, no problem." Hayate then began to turn, but the man spoke once more. "Oh, and my daughter is looking forward to sparring Naruto. She says she needs a good fight, and if Naruto is as skilled as you say, I'm sure she'll have a blast." "Oh, why yes, Naruto is truly a genius when it comes to swords. Your daughter will lean a lot from him," and as he said this, Hayate left the store. Sasuke watched as Hayate left the store. Then, he walked up to the counter. He placed the saber-type sword on the counter. "So you would like this sword, eh?" the man asked. "Hi, very well, XXXXX nothing." There was absolutely nothing. Where the mountain was supposedly crushed, there was no debris. The mountain was perfectly intact, no damage on the outside. The bandit stronghold on the inside was also perfectly intact. It did not make sense. Neither Kakashi nor Tenzo could make any sense of it. Reports had come in about the mountain itself crumbling into pieces, and here was the mountain, perfectly intact. Could the intel have been mixed up? Could there have been no destruction at all? But then that would not explain where Naruto was. Naruto was nowhere to be found. The demonic chakra that Kane had felt even from Konoha last night was gone. There was not a trace of it left. "I've completed a sweep of the area," Tenzo spoke. "No bandits," Kakashi nodded. "Even with my Sharingan, I detect no laces of chakra in the air anywhere." Kane looked around the cavern, still in total confusion. It seemed as if the whole team had the exact same thoughts. None of them could conjure up a reason for the bizarre events pertaining to the mission. It was as if Naruto's mission had never occurred, but Kurenai and Team 8 had returned on their own accord, and had told of how Naruto had rescued their team. And Kurenai also returned. He had heard from Tenzo that she had no memories of the event at all, but the state she was in when she returned proved that she definitely had to have been captured. But the question was, where in the world was Naruto? XXXXXX danger. That is what Naruto sensed all around him, though it was not an immediate danger, more so a disguised one which had to be taken care of immediately. Naruto opened his eyes in a flash to see that he was laying down on a leather sofa. Wait, a leather sofa? Naruto looked around to see a large empty room. It had 4 walls, and the room was very large. The walls were wooden, and on each one were large windows going from the top to a little past halfway to the bottom. The floor was carpeted in some areas, and there was a fireplace in the corner. Other shelves and tables were also around the room. Naruto could tell that from the height and size of the room, this was definitely a mansion. Naruto stood quickly, first things first, looking for a weapon. Preferable his sword, but he had a feeling finding that would be near impossible. Naruto knew his time was limited as he heard footsteps sounding from down the hall. Naruto laced his left hand, or rather his gauntlet, in chakra. He then touched a wooden table. He cut out a splint of wood about the size of a large dagger. It would have to be his makeshift weapon. He held the stake in his right hand, the hand that he would usually hold his sword in. He laced the stake in chakra, amplifying its sharpness infinitely. He then quickly moved to stand just on the right of the door. Whoever came in, Naruto would kill them swiftly and quietly. The footsteps became louder and closer. Naruto held his breath. The time was soon to come. Now. Naruto thought as he swung forward as the person passed through the frame of the door. The stake was going straight for the person's head, but in a lightning-fast movement, the person ducked under the stake, and went to tackle Naruto from the stomach. Naruto's eyes widened as he jumped upwards and just over the person. As he was above him, Naruto put his free hand on the person's back, propelling himself farther up as he pushed off of the figure. Naruto righted himself in the air, seeing an opportunity with the figure's back turned. Naruto threw the stake at the figure's head with pinpoint accuracy. Naruto thought that he had just won this little encounter, but how wrong he was. The figure reached out with his left hand, catching the stake right before it penetrated his skull. The figure's back was also still towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the figure smash the stake in his hand. As Naruto landed, the figure blurred out of sight. Naruto saw the attack just in time, but the figure was just too fast. He couldn't dodge by speed alone. Disappear. The figure grabbed onto Naruto's throat, and smashed him into the wall. Naruto coughed blood at the impact. As he opened his eyes, he saw that he was being pinned in the air against the wall by the figure. Now Naruto for the first time examined who exactly this person was. He found that he easily recognized him. "You're..." Naruto managed to mumble out, his throat still being held. "Zack, or did you forget my name?" Naruto grit his teeth at the predicament he was in. "You know, it's not nice to attack people in their own home." In that moment, Zack threw Naruto away. Naruto flew through the air, landing on the couch. Naruto hurried to catch his breath as he looked back at Zack, who just stood, returning the gaze. Naruto was about to make another move, when another voice spoke, this time behind him. "So, you are Naruto? I see. I've been dying to meet you." Naruto turned around to see a woman. She had dark brown hair and a purple rectangle on each cheek. Naruto put his attention on her, then looked back at Zack. It was then that Zack spoke. "Hi, this is him, bit of a troublemaker actually." Now, let's not scare the poor kid," a new voice interrupted. Naruto turned once more to see a man sitting on a leather chair in front of a window. He had a vertical scar just below his left eye. He had purplish-red spiky hair, and his eyes were a very dark brown, almost black. Now this was a very bad situation. He did not know the layout of the mansion, he was outnumbered, and he had no weapon. "Uzuki Zack Rin, please show our visitor some respect. He is a humbled guest after all," a new voice spoke. Naruto looked towards the door at the source of the voice, and there he stood. Naruto did not recognize his face, but he did recognize his presence. It was one that Naruto could absolutely not mistake. Your dash, Naruto exclaimed. Interesting. I was under the impression that your memory was wiped, the man spoke. Don't underestimate me, Naruto spoke. The man smirked. The name is Itsuro, though the situation may have called otherwise. Naruto smirked. Uzumaki. Naruto, oh, this was gonna be interesting. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Foxsage, and I'm signing off.